Hello there, and welcome to Tired Thinker, a calm space where sharp ideas are explored at an unhurried pace. Tonight, we're venturing into something subtle, powerful, and often hidden in plain sight. The quiet psychological weapons that can make you untouchable. These are not loud or obvious tools. They don't rely on force or anger. Instead, they work beneath the surface, shaping how others see you, how they respond to you, and most importantly, how you carry yourself through a chaotic world. While others react, you'll remain steady. While others scramble for control, you'll already have it, without ever raising your voice. These are the tactics that turn tension into calm, conflict into clarity, and uncertainty into quiet influence. Before we dive in, I'd love to know, where are you listening from, and what time is it right now in your corner of the world? It's interesting, isn't it? A video about strength and control, and here we are, scattered across cities and countries, connected by a shared search for inner steadiness. If you find these slow, thoughtful explorations meaningful, or if you just need a calm place to sharpen your mind at the end of a long day, it would mean a lot if you gave this video a like or gently subscribed. It helps this small, quiet channel reach others who might need it too. Now, let's begin. Mastering emotional detachment begins with understanding how your mind reacts when pressure builds. Imagine standing in a room where voices rise, tempers flare, and decisions need to be made quickly. In that moment, you have two choices. You can let emotion drive your response, or you can pause, step back mentally, and assess the situation with clear eyes. Emotional detachment is not about being cold or indifferent. It is about keeping control of your reactions so you can act with purpose rather than impulse. Consider a tense meeting at work. A colleague challenges your idea in front of others. The natural urge is to defend yourself or push back. But if you allow anger to guide you, you may speak too fast or say something you later regret. Instead, take a breath. Focus on the facts of what was said, not the tone or the perceived attack. Say, "I hear your concern. Let's go over the data together." This shifts the conversation from conflict to problem solving. It also shows others that you can stay steady when others are losing control. This skill starts with self-awareness. Notice how your body reacts when you feel provoked. Your pulse may quicken, your breathing may become shallow, or your hands may tense. These are early signs of emotional flooding. When you catch them, pause before responding. Use simple techniques like counting slowly to 3 or taking one slow, deep breath. These actions create space between the trigger and your response. That space is where rational thinking lives. People who master emotional detachment often rehearse scenarios before they happen. Picture a difficult client yelling on the phone. In your mind, practice staying calm while listening. Imagine yourself using a steady voice and focusing on solving the issue. When the real situation happens, your mind recognizes it and follows the plan. This preparation lowers the chance of being caught off guard. Another example comes from sports. A professional athlete steps onto the field surrounded by noise, pressure, and expectation. If they focus on the crowd or the stakes, nerves take over. But when they focus only on their role and the next move, they perform at their best. In the same way, when you face high-pressure situations, keep your attention on the specific actions you need to take, rather than the emotions swirling around you. Logic becomes your anchor. When someone insults you or tries to provoke a reaction, shift your focus to the facts. Ask yourself, what exactly was said? What outcome do I want? This mindset moves you from a reactive state to a strategic one. For instance, during a heated negotiation, instead of arguing about who is right, break down the numbers, timelines, and resources. By keeping the discussion focused on facts, you reduce emotional friction and guide the conversation toward resolution. It also helps to set clear boundaries. Emotional detachment does not mean letting others walk over you. It means knowing when to engage and when to step back. If a conversation turns personal or unproductive, you can say, "Let's revisit this when we both have more clarity." This statement protects your energy and keeps the interaction professional. Practice observing others without judgment. Watch how people react under stress. Notice their words, tone, and body language. By studying these patterns, you become better at predicting behavior and less likely to take things personally. For example, if you know a coworker tends to lash out when deadlines approach, you can prepare by staying calm and focusing on solutions instead of reacting to their outburst. There will be times when staying detached feels unnatural. Humans are wired to respond emotionally, especially when threatened or criticized. In those moments, remind yourself that your goal is not to win every argument, but to maintain control. Control gives you power. It allows you to decide what matters and what does not. A scenario to consider: you are driving, and another driver cuts you off. The immediate reaction is anger. You might honk, yell, or speed up, but none of these actions improve the situation. Instead, you acknowledge the frustration, let it pass, and continue driving safely. This small act of restraint mirrors larger challenges in life. By refusing to engage with every provocation, you save energy for what truly matters. Over time, emotional detachment becomes a habit. At first, you must consciously remind yourself to pause and think before reacting. With practice, it becomes automatic. People around you will notice your steadiness. They may even come to rely on you during crises because you do not add to the chaos. The workplace is full of opportunities to use this skill. A manager who can stay calm while delivering tough feedback earns respect. A team member who listens without taking things personally builds trust. Even in personal relationships, emotional detachment can prevent small disagreements from becoming major conflicts. It is important to remember that detachment does not mean isolation. You can still care deeply about outcomes and people. The difference lies in how you express that care. Instead of showing it through reactive emotion, you show it through thoughtful action. For instance, when a friend is upset, you do not need to mirror their anger or sadness. You can support them by listening and offering perspective. Imagine being in a courtroom. A lawyer presents their case with precision. Even when the opposing side tries to provoke them, their calm demeanor strengthens their position. If they became defensive or emotional, the jury might doubt their case. In daily life, you are that lawyer. Each interaction is an opportunity to present yourself with clarity and composure. When you detach, you also protect your mental health. Constantly absorbing the emotions of others can lead to burnout. By setting limits on how much energy you give to conflicts, you preserve your focus for decisions that matter. For example, a nurse working long shifts must care for patients without becoming overwhelmed by every loss or setback. Their calm presence benefits both themselves and those they serve. Emotional detachment takes discipline. It requires consistent effort and reflection. After challenging interactions, review what went well and what you could improve. This practice helps you refine your responses over time. Each situation becomes a test of your ability to stay steady. Whether it is a heated argument, a sudden crisis, or a personal attack, your response defines your strength. When others lose control, your calm presence stands out. It signals that you lead with reason, not reaction. Silence is a tool most people overlook. In conversations, people rush to fill empty spaces with words. They fear the discomfort of quiet moments. This fear creates opportunities for those who understand how to use silence with intention. When you stay silent, you put the other person in a position where they must decide how to respond. Often, they reveal more than they planned, giving you insight you would not have gained otherwise. Picture a negotiation. Two people sit across a table discussing a deal. One side makes an offer and then stays silent. The other side feels the weight of the silence pressing on them, Instead of waiting, they start talking again. They explain their position, share extra details, and sometimes even lower their own demands just to break the tension. The person who stayed quiet gains the upper hand by simply refusing to speak. This tactic works because silence feels unnatural in social settings. People are trained to keep conversations flowing. In job interviews, sales calls, or difficult discussions, a pause can feel like failure. When you stay quiet, you signal confidence. You show that you are not afraid to wait. This often makes the other person question their own position or rush to justify it. Consider a workplace scenario. A manager asks a direct question about a missed deadline. The employee begins to explain, but leaves out key information. The manager stays silent, holding eye contact without showing emotion. The employee grows uneasy and continues talking, eventually admitting they underestimated the workload. The truth surfaces not because of pressure or threats, but because the silence creates space for it to emerge. Using silence well requires control. You must resist the urge to jump in, defend yourself, or offer reassurance. This is not easy. The natural instinct is to fill the gap. Practice by counting slowly in your head when a pause occurs. Even a few seconds of silence can shift the dynamic. In a heated argument, staying quiet prevents escalation. When one person yells and the other remains calm and silent, the yelling loses power. Imagine a lawyer questioning a witness in court. The lawyer asks a tough question, then waits. The witness fidgets, glances around, and starts to ramble. The longer the lawyer stays silent, the more the witness says. In this setting, silence is not passive. It is an active strategy that forces the other person to carry the weight of the moment. Silence also gives you time to think. In fast-moving conversations, mistakes happen when people react too quickly. By pausing, you give yourself space to choose your words carefully. This is especially valuable in negotiations or conflict resolution. A well-timed pause can prevent you from saying something you cannot take back. There is another layer to this. Silence draws attention to what has just been said. When you stay quiet after someone makes a statement, it forces them to reflect on their own words. If their statement was weak or dishonest, they may feel compelled to clarify or backtrack. This often reveals their true thoughts. For example, in a salary discussion, an employee says, "I think I deserve a raise." The manager stays silent, watching and waiting. The employee, uncomfortable with the silence, begins to explain their reasoning in greater detail. They list accomplishments, highlight contributions, and even suggest a specific number. The silence acts like a spotlight, encouraging them to reveal more than they planned. In high-stakes situations, silence can be even more powerful than argument. When tempers rise, words often make things worse. By staying silent, you remove fuel from the fire. Think of a parent dealing with a child's tantrum. If the parent yells back, the conflict escalates. If the parent stays calm and silent, the child eventually runs out of energy. The same principle applies to adults in heated discussions. Silence also signals strength. People who talk too much can seem nervous or unsure. Those who speak only when necessary project authority. In a meeting, the person who listens carefully and speaks briefly often has the most impact. Others notice that when they do speak, it matters. Consider a team brainstorming session. Everyone throws out ideas, talking over one another. One person sits quietly, taking it all in. When the discussion slows, they speak up with a clear, well-thought-out suggestion. Their words carry weight because they were not lost in the noise of constant chatter. There is a fine balance, though. Silence should not come across as disinterest or hostility. Body language plays a role here. A calm expression, steady eye contact, and an open posture show that you are engaged even when you are not speaking. If you look away or cross your arms, your silence may be read as anger or judgment. Using silence with intention takes practice. Start with small moments. In casual conversations, let others finish their thoughts completely before you respond. Resist the urge to interrupt or rush in with your point. Notice how people react when you give them space. Over time, you will see patterns. Some people will reveal their true feelings in those quiet moments. Others will try to fill the silence with extra information. Another scenario involves conflict at work. Two coworkers disagree about how to approach a project. One raises their voice, trying to dominate the conversation. The other stays silent, listening carefully. When the first person finishes, the silence hangs in the air. It feels heavy. Finally, the loud coworker softens their tone and says, "Maybe we can find a middle ground." The silence shifts the energy, opening the door for resolution. Silence can also protect you. When someone asks a question designed to trap you or provoke a reaction, your first response should be nothing at all. Take a breath. Wait. This shows that you are in control and gives you time to plan your answer. In law enforcement interviews, suspects often reveal key details simply because they cannot stand the silence after a question. Investigators use this to their advantage. Timing matters. Too much silence can stall a conversation, but too little makes it ineffective. Think of silence as seasoning in cooking. A little enhances the flavor, but too much overwhelms it. Use short pauses to create tension and longer ones to draw out deeper responses. Even outside of conflict, silence builds connection. When someone shares something personal, resist the urge to immediately respond with advice or stories of your own. Let the moment breathe. This shows respect and allows the other person to fully express themselves. In daily life, you can practice by observing conversations in public places. Notice how often people rush to speak as soon as there is a pause. Imagine how different the interaction would feel if one person stayed quiet a little longer. Over time, you will learn to hold that space yourself. Silence, when used with purpose, becomes a form of influence. It guides conversations without force. It exposes truths without confrontation. It allows you to listen more deeply and respond with clarity. While most people fear silence, those who master it can shape outcomes with nothing more than a well-timed pause. Stoicism is about understanding what is in your control and what is not. Many people waste energy trying to change things they cannot influence. This leads to frustration, anger, and stress. When you focus only on what you can control, you free yourself from that burden. This does not mean giving up or being passive. It means choosing where to put your effort so it makes a real difference. Imagine you are stuck in traffic on your way to an important meeting. The cars are barely moving, and you can feel tension building in your chest. You grip the steering wheel, muttering about bad drivers and poor road design. None of this changes the fact that you are stuck. You cannot make the cars move faster. What you can control is your reaction. You can choose to breathe deeply, call ahead to let them know you'll be late, and use the time to rehearse what you will say in the meeting. By focusing on what you can do, you stay calm and prepared instead of angry and scattered. In work settings, this mindset is powerful. A project might fail because of decisions made by senior leadership. You might feel upset, thinking about what they should have done differently. But those decisions are not yours to make. What you can control is how you respond. You can focus on doing your part well, supporting your team, and learning from the experience. This approach not only reduces stress, but also makes you someone others trust during difficult times. Stoicism also helps when dealing with other people. You cannot control their words, moods, or actions. You can only control your own. Suppose a coworker criticizes your work in a harsh tone. Your first instinct might be to argue back or take it personally. Instead, you can pause and respond calmly. You might say, "Thank you for the feedback. Can you show me where you think improvements are needed?" This shifts the interaction from conflict to problem solving. The other person's behavior is their responsibility, not yours. A key part of practicing Stoicism is separating facts from feelings. Facts are what actually happened. Feelings are your reaction to those facts. For example, if you miss a flight, the fact is simple: the plane left without you. The feelings might be frustration, panic, or disappointment. If you focus on the feelings, you may lash out at airline staff or waste energy blaming yourself. If you focus on the fact, you can move directly to solutions, like booking a new flight or finding another way to reach your destination. Daily life provides constant tests of this skill. You might wake up to heavy rain on the day you planned an outdoor event. You cannot stop the rain. You can either dwell on your frustration or adapt by finding an indoor venue. The choice is always between resisting reality or accepting it and taking constructive action. History offers strong examples of Stoicism in action. Marcus Aurelius, a Roman emperor, faced wars, plagues, and political betrayal. He wrote in his journal about focusing only on his own duties and choices. Even with immense power, he recognized that many things were beyond his control. His calm leadership came from this clear separation between what he could change and what he could not. In modern times, think of a surgeon before a complex operation. They prepare carefully, review every detail, and control everything they can within the procedure. Once the surgery begins, unforeseen complications may arise. The surgeon cannot control everything that happens inside the body. What they can do is stay focused, adapt to the situation, and use their skills to give the patient the best chance of recovery. This mindset prevents panic and keeps them effective under pressure. Practicing Stoicism does not mean you suppress emotions. It means you manage them. Feeling fear, anger, or sadness is natural. The difference is how you act on those feelings. Picture a firefighter arriving at a burning building. Fear is present, but it does not guide their decisions. Training and focus take over. They act with clarity because they have learned to separate emotion from action. One way to build this skill is through reflection. At the end of each day, review events that cause stress. Ask yourself which parts were within your control. Write down what you could have done differently and what was outside your reach. Over time, you will notice patterns. You may realize that many of your worries were about things you had no power to change. This awareness makes it easier to let go of them in the future. Another practical tool is setting clear priorities. When you know your goals, it becomes easier to ignore distractions. Suppose you are working on a tight deadline and a coworker tries to drag you into office gossip. You can remind yourself that you cannot control what others choose to talk about. You can control whether you engage or stay focused on your work. By walking away or redirecting the conversation, you protect your time and energy. Stoicism is also useful in relationships. People often expect others to act a certain way and feel hurt when they do not. For example, you might plan a special evening for someone, only to find they are distracted or distant. You cannot control their mood or behavior. You can control how you respond. Instead of taking it personally, you can stay calm, enjoy the evening for what it is, and speak openly later if needed. This prevents unnecessary conflict and keeps the relationship steady. Even small daily choices reflect Stoic practice. You might spill coffee on your shirt right before an important meeting. You can waste time cursing your luck, or you can change shirts and move on. The event itself is neutral. Your reaction gives it meaning. By choosing a calm, practical response, you avoid turning a minor inconvenience into a ruined day. Stress often comes from fighting reality. People tell themselves that things should be different, that others should behave a certain way, that life should be fair. Stoicism teaches that should is a trap. Life is what it is in this moment. Your power lies in how you respond. When you stop resisting what you cannot change, you free up energy to take action where it matters. Consider a team facing layoffs. Some members panic, spreading rumors and complaining endlessly. Others focus on updating their resumes, networking, and improving their skills. Both groups face the same external situation. The difference is that one group spends energy on things beyond their control, while the other directs their energy toward constructive action. In high-pressure professions like law enforcement, military service, or emergency medicine, Stoic thinking is vital. These roles involve constant exposure to chaos and loss. By focusing only on what they can do in each moment, professionals in these fields stay functional and protect their mental health. A paramedic cannot control who lives or dies on every call. They can control how quickly they respond, how well they apply their training, and how they support their team. Stoicism also helps with long-term challenges. Someone facing a chronic illness may not control the disease itself. They can control their diet, exercise, and attitude toward treatment. This focus on actionable steps creates a sense of stability even in uncertain circumstances. Every day, you will face events that test your composure. A late train, a rude stranger, a broken appliance, a sudden setback at work. Most of these things are outside your influence. By pausing and asking, "Is this within my control?" you create a moment of choice. If the answer is yes, act with purpose. If the answer is no, let it go and save your energy for what matters. Confidence is not about being the loudest person in the room or forcing others to see your worth. It comes from knowing yourself, trusting your judgment, and carrying yourself with calm strength. When you have unshakable self-confidence, you become difficult to manipulate. People who try to control you rely on doubt and hesitation. If you speak and move with certainty, their tactics lose power. Picture someone walking into a meeting. Their posture is straight, their steps steady, and their expression composed. They don't fidget or rush their words. When they speak, their tone is clear and measured. They don't overshare or seek approval. Even before they say much, others sense their confidence. Now imagine someone else entering the same room with slouched shoulders, uncertain steps, and a wavering voice. The difference is clear. The first person sets the tone. The second person invites challenge. Building this kind of confidence starts with preparation. Knowledge is a strong foundation. When you understand your work, your goals, and your boundaries, you naturally speak with more certainty. Think of a lawyer presenting a case. If they know the facts inside and out, they don't need to bluff or overcompensate. They can answer questions calmly because they are prepared. In daily life, this means taking the time to understand the details of situations you face. If you have a presentation, rehearse it. If you are entering a negotiation, know the numbers and limits before you begin. Preparation reduces fear and creates clarity. Confidence also grows from keeping promises to yourself. When you set a goal and follow through, you build trust in your own abilities. This doesn't have to be dramatic. It can be as simple as deciding to wake up at a certain time and doing it, or committing to finish a task and seeing it through. Over time, these small acts create an inner sense of reliability. You stop questioning whether you can handle challenges because you have a track record of proving it to yourself. Consider how manipulators operate. They look for cracks in your sense of self. If they sense you are unsure, they push. They might use flattery to make you dependent on their approval, or criticism to make you doubt your choices. For example, a coworker might say, "Are you sure that's the right approach? I've been here longer. Maybe you should let me handle it." If you lack confidence, you might second-guess yourself and hand over control. If you are steady, you can reply, "I've reviewed the data and I'm confident in this plan." Your certainty ends the challenge without escalating the conflict. Confidence shows not only in words, but in body language. Stand tall, with your shoulders back and your chin level. Make eye contact without staring. Keep your movements deliberate, rather than rushed. These signals communicate calm strength. Even if you feel nervous inside, acting with controlled movements helps you project confidence outward, which in turn strengthens how you feel internally. In a tense conversation, speak slowly and clearly. People often speed up when they are unsure, as if racing to get through the discomfort. This makes them seem less confident and gives the other person more control. By slowing down, you signal that you are in charge of your thoughts and emotions. For instance, during a salary negotiation, a pause before answering can be as powerful as the words you choose. It shows that you are not desperate or afraid. Confidence also means knowing your values and boundaries. If you don't know what you stand for, others will decide for you. Imagine someone trying to pressure you into unethical behavior at work. If your principles are clear, your decision is simple. You refuse, without needing to debate or justify. This directness protects you from manipulation. People may still try to persuade you, but they will sense your resolve and think twice about pushing further. Building unshakable confidence requires facing discomfort. Growth happens when you step into situations that challenge you. Start with manageable risks. Speak up in a meeting when you would normally stay quiet. Share your opinion, even if it differs from the group. Over time, these small steps expand your comfort zone. Think of a martial artist who trains daily. At first, their movements are awkward, but with repetition, they become natural. Confidence works the same way. Rejection is part of this process. When you face setbacks, view them as training, not failure. Suppose you give a presentation and it falls flat. Instead of dwelling on embarrassment, analyze what went wrong. Maybe your slides were unclear or your timing was off. By learning and adjusting, you turn the experience into strength. Each time you recover, your belief in your own resilience deepens. There is a difference between true confidence and arrogance. Arrogance is loud and fragile. It depends on others believing the image you project. True confidence is quiet and steady. It does not need constant validation. For example, a confident leader listens to their team, admits when they don't know something, and makes decisions based on facts rather than ego. An arrogant leader talks over others and hides mistakes. People can feel the difference. Confidence affects how others treat you. When you carry yourself with certainty, you set the tone for interactions. In a social setting, a manipulative person might try to dominate a group conversation. If you remain calm and speak with clarity, you disrupt their control. Others will notice and often gravitate toward your steadiness. This doesn't mean you need to dominate the room yourself. Sometimes the most confident move is to speak briefly and then listen. Consider a scenario where a friend constantly pressures you to do things you don't want to do. Without confidence, you might give in to avoid conflict. With confidence, you can simply say, "That doesn't work for me." You don't need to explain or apologize. The clear, direct response sets a boundary. Over time, people learn how to treat you by how you respond. Even when you are unsure, act as if you are composed. This is not about faking knowledge you don't have. It is about staying steady while you figure things out. Imagine a pilot hitting turbulence. If they panic, the passengers panic. If they stay calm and communicate clearly, everyone feels safer. In life, you are the pilot of your own presence. Others take cues from how you carry yourself. Confidence also means accepting that you won't please everyone. If you try to gain universal approval, you make yourself vulnerable. Someone will always disagree or criticize. When you know your values and trust your decisions, criticism becomes information rather than a threat. You can listen, consider what is useful, and discard the rest. Preparation, practice, and resilience build confidence over time. Each moment you stand firm adds to your foundation. You may not notice the change at first, but others will. They will see it in your tone, your posture, and your decisions. And those who seek to manipulate will find no openings because certainty leaves them with nothing to exploit. People tend to want what feels rare. This is why the last item on a shelf seems more desirable than when there were plenty. The same principle applies to human behavior. When you make yourself slightly less available, others begin to value your time and presence more. If you are always accessible, people start to take you for granted. They assume you will be there whenever they need you, and your worth becomes invisible. By creating a bit of distance, you create a sense of scarcity. That scarcity makes people pay attention. Imagine a friend who always answers calls immediately, agrees to every request, and rearranges their schedule for others. Over time, the people around them stop seeing these actions as special. They expect constant availability. Now imagine another friend who is reliable but not always reachable. When they agree to meet or help, it feels significant. A difference is not about who is kinder or more generous. It comes down to perception. When something is always within reach, it loses its perceived value. In the workplace, this effect is easy to see. A manager who says yes to every meeting request and responds to emails instantly becomes overwhelmed and underappreciated. Their input starts to feel routine rather than valuable. Another manager limits their availability. They choose meetings carefully, respond to messages with purpose, and protect their time. When they do speak or attend, people listen more closely. Their presence carries weight because it is not guaranteed. This is not about playing games or manipulating others. It is about setting boundaries and showing that your time matters. When you set clear limits, you send a message. You are focused and deliberate. For example, if you run a small business, you might only take client calls during certain hours. This structure signals professionalism and prevents burnout. Clients will adjust to your schedule and value the interaction more because it is defined. Scarcity also applies in relationships. When someone chases you, part of the attraction comes from the challenge. If you are always available, that challenge disappears. This does not mean you should ignore people or act cold. It means maintaining your own life, interests, and priorities instead of centering everything around another person. Imagine dating someone who drops everything the moment you text. At first, it feels flattering. Over time, it starts to feel smothering. Contrast that with someone who responds thoughtfully, but not instantly. Their independence keeps the dynamic balanced. Consider a professional example. An employee is skilled at a particular task, and everyone knows it. As they always say yes to requests, coworkers come to expect their help without appreciating it. If the employee instead sets limits, helping when it truly matters, and teaching others to handle simpler tasks, their contributions stand out. Their involvement becomes something special rather than routine. Scarcity works because it taps into a basic human bias. People equate availability with value. Limited things seem more important. Think about limited edition products. A store announces that only a few will be sold. Even if the item is not exceptional, people line up to get it. The same psychology drives behavior in personal and professional interactions. To apply this effectively, you must be consistent. If you say you are unavailable at certain times, stick to it. Breaking your own rules sends mixed signals and weakens the effect. For instance, if you tell your team you do not answer work messages after 7 p.m., but you keep responding at night, they will learn that your boundary is not real. The scarcity disappears. There is a balance to strike. If you make yourself too scarce, people may feel abandoned or lose interest. The goal is not to vanish, but to create enough space that your presence feels intentional. Imagine a popular teacher. If they are always standing in the hallway, chatting with students, the interactions blend together. If they are usually focused, but occasionally take time for a meaningful conversation, that moment becomes memorable. Body language can reinforce this principle. When you are with someone, give them your full attention. When you are not, be fully engaged elsewhere. This contrast strengthens the sense that your time with them is special. If you are half present all the time, you create the opposite effect, constant but shallow availability. In negotiation, scarcity can change outcomes. Suppose you are a consultant offering a service. If you say, "I'm available whenever you need me," the client may assume they can delay decisions or negotiate aggressively. If you instead say, "I have space for 2 new clients this quarter," you create urgency. The client now views your time as valuable and limited. They are more likely to commit quickly and respect your terms. The same dynamic appears in leadership. A leader who speaks constantly risks being tuned out. A leader who chooses their moments carefully commands attention. When they step forward with a clear message, people listen because they know it matters. Their words are not background noise, but a deliberate signal. Scarcity also protects your energy. Being constantly available drains you. When you spread yourself too thin, your performance drops. By limiting your availability, you maintain focus and quality. Think of a craftsman who produces a few well-made pieces instead of mass-producing items. The limited output increases both the quality and the perceived value. An example in everyday life could be social media use. If you post constantly, people may stop paying attention. Each update blends into the next. If you post less often but share meaningful content, each post has more impact. Your voice stands out in the noise because it is not always there. In friendships, scarcity can prevent imbalance. If one person always initiates plans and the other always agrees, the relationship becomes one-sided. When both people have their own schedules and occasionally say no, the time they do spend together feels more equal. This balance keeps the relationship healthy and prevents resentment. Scarcity can also expose manipulation. Some people try to control others by demanding constant attention. If you step back and create space, their tactics lose power. For instance, a coworker might bombard you with urgent requests to keep you under pressure. By calmly setting limits, you show that you will not be controlled by false urgency. Over time, they either adjust or reveal their motives. To use this approach well, be clear in your communication. You do not need to explain every decision, but you should be direct. If you are not available, say so without guilt. A simple statement like, "I'm not free this afternoon, let's talk tomorrow," sends a strong message. Your time is important, and you decide how to spend it. Scarcity works best when paired with reliability. If you are present when you say you will be, people learn to trust you. If you are scarce but unreliable, you create frustration instead of value. The key is to be dependable within the boundaries you set. When you manage your availability with care, you shape how others see you. You are no longer just another option, always within reach. You become someone whose attention matters because it is not given lightly. This subtle shift changes relationships, strengthens boundaries, and increases the respect others show you. People tend to trust and connect with those who feel familiar. When someone sees parts of themselves reflected in another person, they feel understood without words. This is why mirroring and matching works. It is the practice of subtly mimicking someone's body language, tone, and rhythm of speech to create instant rapport. The key is to do it naturally so it goes unnoticed. When done well, the other person feels comfortable and open without knowing why. Imagine meeting someone for the first time. They sit back in their chair, speaking slowly and with a calm tone. If you lean forward, speak quickly, and use sharp hand gestures, there will be an invisible gap between you. The mismatch creates tension. But if you adjust slightly, leaning back just enough, slowing your pace, and softening your gestures, you close that gap. The person feels at ease because you are moving in sync. It is like two dancers finding the same rhythm. This does not mean copying every move they make. Direct imitation looks fake and can backfire. The goal is to reflect their energy and style in a subtle way. If they cross their legs, you might shift your posture in a similar direction a few moments later. If they use a certain tone of voice, you adjust yours to match the mood, not the exact pitch. These small adjustments signal alignment without drawing attention. Consider a job interview. The interviewer speaks formally and sits upright. If you slouch or speak in a casual tone, you seem unprepared or out of touch. If you sit upright and use a professional tone, you show respect and understanding. This creates harmony. In contrast, imagine the same interviewer using relaxed language and leaning back comfortably. In that case, matching their casual style builds a better connection. The skill lies in reading the other person and adapting smoothly. Mirroring works because it taps into a deep psychological response. Humans are wired to notice patterns in others. When someone reflects our body language, our brain interprets it as similarity. Similarity builds trust. This is why friends often pick up each other's mannerisms over time without realizing it. In conversation, subtle mirroring speeds up this process. A simple scenario shows how powerful this can be. A salesperson meets a potential client who speaks quietly and uses slow, thoughtful movements. The salesperson, aware of this, lowers their voice slightly and slows their gestures. The client relaxes and begins to open up. If the salesperson had spoken loudly and moved quickly, the client might have felt overwhelmed or defensive. By matching the client's pace, the salesperson creates a safe space for dialogue. Tone of voice matters as much as body language. Some people speak in short, direct sentences. Others use longer, flowing speech. Matching this pattern shows understanding. For instance, if someone says, "I need this done by Friday," you might reply, "Friday works." If they say, "I was thinking it would be great to wrap this up before the weekend so everyone can enjoy their time off," you can respond with similar phrasing. You are not only matching words, but also the rhythm and energy behind them. Breathing patterns can also be mirrored. If someone breathes slowly and steadily, matching that rhythm can create a sense of calm connection. This technique is especially useful in tense situations. Imagine a conflict at work. One person is angry and breathing fast. If you remain calm and steady, your rhythm can influence theirs over time. Once they begin to mirror your slower breathing, their anger naturally subsides. Mirroring extends beyond physical gestures. It includes emotional states. If someone shares exciting news, show a similar level of enthusiasm. If they speak about a difficult experience, match their seriousness and empathy. This emotional alignment shows that you are attuned to them. For example, if a coworker describes a stressful project, you don't need to match their stress, but you can lower your voice and say, "That sounds challenging. How can I help?" The tone signals understanding without feeding the tension. Timing is important. Mirroring should never feel rushed or forced. If someone folds their arms, wait a few moments before making a similar movement. The delay keeps it natural. Immediate imitation feels like mockery. Think of it as a dance with a slight pause between their step and yours. This pause makes the connection smooth and believable. Mirroring can also help in negotiations. Suppose you are discussing terms with someone who leans forward slightly and speaks with measured confidence. By leaning forward just a bit and using similar pacing, you create a subtle bond. As trust grows, they become more open to compromise. Without mirroring, the negotiation might feel like a battle. With mirroring, it feels like teamwork. There are times when breaking the mirror is useful. Once you have built rapport, you can shift your body language to guide the interaction. For instance, if someone is agitated and you start by matching their fast speech and sharp gestures, you can slowly calm your own pace. Often, they will unconsciously follow your lead, bringing the conversation to a more stable place. This technique works well in leadership and conflict resolution. Think of a parent calming a child. At first, the parent matches the child's upset tone just enough to show understanding. Then, the parent gradually softens their voice and slows their movements. The child naturally begins to mirror the parent's calm state. Adults respond to this in the same way, though they may not realize it. Mirroring requires observation. Pay attention to posture, gestures, tone, and pace. Notice if the other person uses lots of hand movements or keeps them still. Watch their facial expressions and eye contact. Listen to how quickly or slowly they speak. The more details you observe, the better you can adjust. This is not about becoming someone else, but about finding common ground. A practical example is a networking event. You meet someone who who speaks with high energy and uses wide gestures. Matching their energy helps you connect quickly. Later, you meet someone reserved and soft-spoken. Lowering your energy level to match theirs shows respect. If you approached both people the same way, one would feel overwhelmed and the other unimpressed. Mirroring also builds trust in group settings. In a team meeting, matching the general mood helps you blend in. If the group is excited, you engage with similar energy. If the group is serious, you stay composed. This makes it easier to influence the group later because you are seen as part of it, not separate. Subtlety is the key throughout this process. If you overdo it, people may sense manipulation and pull away. Small, gradual adjustments work best. The goal is to create harmony, not to control. When done with care, mirroring feels natural to both sides. Over time, you may notice that others begin to mirror you without conscious effort. This is a sign that trust is growing. When this happens, you can use it to lead. If you maintain calm, confident body language, others will reflect it back. This creates a stable, positive dynamic in both personal and professional relationships. Mirroring and matching work because they bridge the gap between people. They signal that you are paying attention and willing to meet others where they are. In a world full of misunderstandings and quick judgments, that kind of connection stands out. It turns strangers into allies and tense moments into opportunities for cooperation. By moving in rhythm with others, you create trust before a single word is spoken. Over-explaining is a habit that gives away power. When you explain too much, you sound unsure, even when you are right. People start to wonder why you are defending yourself so hard. The more words you use, the more space you give others to question you. A clear, simple statement shows confidence. It says you believe in what you are saying and don't need anyone's approval. Imagine someone asking why you made a decision at work. If you respond with a long story about every factor you considered, you invite doubt. The listener may pick apart small details, challenge minor points, or get lost in the information. If you instead say, "I chose this option because it meets our deadline and budget," you leave little room for argument. Your answer is direct and complete. If they need more detail, they will ask, and you can provide it calmly and on your terms. Consider a manager speaking to their team about a policy change. If the manager spends 10 minutes justifying the decision, people start looking for weaknesses. They may wonder if leadership is hiding something or second-guessing itself. If the manager simply states, "We are moving forward with this process because it improves efficiency," the message is clear. Questions can come later, but the initial statement stands strong. Over-explaining often comes from fear. People worry they won't be understood or accepted, so they keep talking to cover every angle. This creates the opposite effect. Instead of building trust, it signals insecurity. Think of someone telling you about a mistake they made. If they say, "I missed the deadline and it won't happen again," you respect the directness. If they launch into a 5-minute speech about traffic, family issues, and computer problems, you start to doubt their reliability. There is a difference between providing useful context and defending yourself. Useful context is brief and relevant. Over-explaining drifts into unnecessary detail. A good test is to ask yourself, does this extra information help the other person act or decide? If the answer is no, leave it out. For instance, if your boss asks when a report will be ready, saying, "It will be done by Friday," is enough. Adding, "I've been swamped with other tasks, but I stayed late last night, and I'm skipping lunch today to finish it," doesn't change the outcome. It only shifts attention to your stress, which might raise questions about your time management. Over-explaining can also hurt in negotiations. Suppose you're asking for a raise. If you state, "I'd like a raise because my performance has exceeded expectations," you create a strong position. If you keep talking, listing every single task you've done, apologizing for asking, and bringing up unrelated struggles, you weaken your case. The other person may use your extra words to push back or delay the decision. Personal relationships follow the same pattern. When you say no to a request, a simple response is best. If a friend invites you to an event and you can't go, saying, "I'm not available that night," is enough. If you start explaining in detail about work deadlines, errands, and family commitments, you open the door for negotiation or guilt. The friend might say, "Can't you just move things around?" Now you are in a debate you never needed to have. Think about a courtroom. Lawyers are trained to avoid giving the other side more material than necessary. A strong lawyer answers questions with precision. If asked, "Where were you on Friday night?" they reply, "At home." If they say, "At home watching TV, then I went out to get pizza, and I ran into an old friend at the store," they've given the opposing side 3 new areas to explore. In conversation, over-explaining has the same risk. The more you say, the more targets you create. One way to break the habit is to practice silence. After you state your point, stop talking. Let the other person respond. This pause may feel uncomfortable at first, but it works in your favor. Silence shows confidence. It forces the other person to react, instead of giving them more information to work with. For example, in a meeting, you propose a plan and say, "This approach meets our goals and timeline." Then you stop. If someone disagrees, they will speak up. If no one says anything, you have their acceptance without having to fight for it. If you keep talking, you might accidentally bring up concerns they hadn't thought of. Over-explaining often shows up in written communication as well. Long emails full of justifications get skimmed or ignored. A clear message is more effective. If you need approval on a project, writing, "Please review and confirm by Friday," is stronger than 3 paragraphs about why the deadline matters. The extra text doesn't increase clarity, it only creates noise. There are moments when extra detail is necessary, but even then, structure matters. Start with your main point, then add supporting facts if asked. Suppose you're presenting a safety update to a team. You begin with, "We've identified 3 new safety risks, and here's what we're doing to address them." After that, you can explain each step briefly. If you reverse this order and start with every small detail, the core message gets lost. Over-explaining can make you seem defensive, even when you are not. Imagine someone complimenting you on a successful project. If you respond, "Thanks, but it was really a team effort, and honestly, there were so many mistakes along the way," you diminish both yourself and the compliment. A simple thank you is enough. By saying less, you allow the positive moment to stand. Defensiveness invites challenge. If you are accused of something and immediately launch into a long explanation, you seem guilty even if you are innocent. Picture a child denying they broke a vase. If they say, "I didn't do it," you might believe them. If they say, "I didn't do it, and even if I was near the vase, I was careful, and besides, my sister was there too, and it could have been the wind," you start to question their story. Adults are no different. The more someone talks, the more others look for inconsistencies. Training yourself to stop over-explaining takes awareness. Start by noticing when you feel the urge to justify. It often comes with a rush of nervous energy. Pause and ask yourself, "Have I answered the question clearly?" If yes, stop talking. If silence feels awkward, count slowly in your head until the other person speaks. Practice in low-stakes situations. When a cashier asks if you want a receipt, just say yes or no without adding reasons. When a colleague asks if you can attend a meeting, answer directly. Over time, these small moments build your ability to stay concise under pressure. There is strength in simplicity. When you state your point once and let it stand, you show that you trust your own words. Others pick up on this. They feel your calm certainty and respond with respect. By resisting the urge to explain and defend, you keep control of the conversation and your position remains strong. Delaying your response gives you power. Most people speak as soon as they feel pressure, filling silence with quick reactions. When you pause, you change the pace of the interaction. Others become uncertain, while you gain time to think. That small moment creates space for control. It also makes your words carry more weight because they are chosen rather than rushed. Imagine being in a heated meeting where tempers are high. Someone challenges your idea directly. If you respond right away, you risk saying something emotional or poorly thought out. But if you take a breath, let the silence stretch for a few seconds, and then speak calmly, you shift the tone. The room notices your restraint. The challenger begins to wonder what you are thinking. This pause often unsettles them more than an immediate defense would. In negotiations, a delay can influence outcomes. Suppose you are discussing a contract. The other side makes an offer and then waits for your reaction. Many people rush to respond, either agreeing too quickly or rejecting too strongly. If you pause instead, they start to fill the silence themselves. They might add extra details or even improve their offer without you saying a word. The pause becomes a tool that draws out information while protecting your position. Delaying your response does not mean avoiding answers forever. It means taking a moment to choose the right one. Even a brief pause can prevent mistakes. Think about sending an email when you are angry. If you hit send right away, you might regret your tone later. If you step away, read the message again after an hour, and then decide whether to send it, you act with intention rather than impulse. That delay can save relationships and reputations. Timing matters. Too short a pause feels like hesitation. Too long feels like avoidance. The goal is a natural rhythm that shows you are considering the situation, not ignoring it. In face-to-face conversations, a pause of 3 to 5 seconds is often enough. This gives you space to gather your thoughts and signals that you are not easily rattled. Consider a courtroom. A skilled lawyer never rushes to answer a question under cross-examination. They take a moment, look at the judge or jury, and then respond carefully. This deliberate pacing makes them seem composed and trustworthy. If they spoke immediately, their answers might sound defensive or reactive. You can apply the same principle in daily interactions. Delaying your response also keeps others guessing. When people can predict exactly how you will react, they can manipulate you. If every time someone insults you, you snap back, they will keep doing it to control you. If you pause instead, staying silent while you decide how to respond, you break the pattern. The other person loses their grip because they no longer know what to expect. Picture a coworker who thrives on provoking arguments. They make a snide comment during a meeting, expecting you to bite. You look at them calmly, say nothing for a moment, and then continue with the agenda. The lack of reaction frustrates them. Over time, they may stop trying because their tactics no longer work. A pause can also show respect. When someone shares something important, responding too quickly can make it seem like you weren't listening. Taking a moment before you speak shows that you are considering their words carefully. This builds trust. For example, if a team member presents an idea, you can pause, nod, and then reply, "Let's explore that further." The delay makes your response feel deliberate rather than automatic. Even in casual conversations, timing shapes perception. If someone tells a joke and you laugh immediately, it feels normal. If you let a half-second pass before laughing, it adds depth to your reaction. It shows that you chose to engage rather than being swept along. Small delays like this create an impression of thoughtfulness and control. The digital world makes quick reactions tempting. Messages arrive instantly, and people expect immediate replies. If you always respond the moment someone texts or emails you, you train them to expect constant access. By delaying your responses, even slightly, you set boundaries. If a colleague emails you late at night and you wait until morning to reply, you show that your time is your own. This subtle delay teaches others to respect your limits. There are times when a pause can prevent escalation. Arguments often spiral because both sides keep firing back without stopping. If you are in a tense exchange, silence can break the cycle. The other person may calm down while they wait for your reply. Even if they continue speaking, your pause gives you a chance to cool off and decide whether the argument is worth continuing. Think of a chess match. The strongest players never move immediately after their opponent. They study the board, consider options, and only then make a move. Life's interactions work the same way. When you react instantly, you play into the other person's strategy. When you pause, you see the whole picture and act with purpose. Pausing also makes your words more powerful. If you speak without a break, your message can get lost. If you pause before key points, people lean in and pay attention. This is why skilled public speakers use silence as part of their delivery. You can do the same in everyday conversations. Before making an important statement, pause briefly. The silence creates anticipation and highlights what you are about to say. An example of this is a performance review. A manager says to an employee, "Your work this quarter has been impressive." Then they pause. The silence allows the compliment to sink in. If the manager rushed on to the next point, the impact would be weaker. Pausing gives weight to words. Delaying responses can even protect you legally or professionally. If someone asks a loaded question, answering too quickly may trap you. By pausing, you give yourself time to think through the implications. Police officers, lawyers, and negotiators all use this tactic because they know the danger of reacting without reflection. When you start practicing this skill, it may feel awkward. You might worry that others will notice the pause. In reality, most people won't. They will simply feel that you are calm and deliberate. If you need help getting comfortable, practice counting to 3 in your head before speaking. Over time, the pause will become natural. Be aware of your body language during the delay. If you look nervous or fidget, the pause may seem like uncertainty. Keep your posture steady, your face neutral, and your breathing even. This shows that the pause is intentional, not accidental. There is a difference between a strategic pause and giving someone the silent treatment. The goal is not to punish or withhold, but to create space. After the pause, you still respond clearly and directly. The power comes from the timing, not from avoiding the conversation. Delaying your response builds discipline. It trains you to think before acting, to control your emotions, and to guide interactions rather than being dragged by them. Whether in a business negotiation, a personal conflict, or a simple daily exchange, that brief moment of silence can shift the entire outcome in your favor. Others will see you as calm and confident, while you gain the clarity to choose your next move. Your face reveals more than your words. A raised eyebrow, a tight jaw, or a slight smirk can expose what you are thinking before you even speak. People read these cues, often without realizing it. If you want to maintain control in conversations and negotiations, you must learn to keep your expressions neutral. This skill, known as mastering the poker face, allows you to stay unreadable no matter what is happening around you. Imagine sitting across from someone in a negotiation. They make an offer far lower than you expected. If your face shows surprise or frustration, you give them an advantage. They now know they have caught you off guard and may push harder. If instead you remain calm and neutral, they are left guessing. They cannot tell if you are pleased, offended, or indifferent. That uncertainty shifts the pressure back to them. A poker face does not mean looking cold or robotic. It means controlling your reactions so they don't reveal your inner state. Your goal is to project steadiness. People respect those who appear unshaken, especially in tense situations. Consider a courtroom setting. A witness who shows fear or anger is easy to challenge. A witness who stays composed under questioning seems credible and strong. The same applies in business, relationships, and everyday life. Training your face begins with awareness. Many people don't realize what they are showing until others point it out. Start by noticing your expressions in low-stakes situations. When someone says something surprising, pay attention to how your face reacts. Do you widen your eyes, purse your lips, or raise your eyebrows? These small movements send signals. Once you see the patterns, you can begin to control them. Practice in front of a mirror. Make a face that shows anger, then relax it to neutral. Do the same with surprise, amusement, or disgust. This helps you feel the difference between an uncontrolled reaction and a calm, steady expression. Over time, your muscles will learn to stay neutral even when you feel strong emotions. In real conversations, focus on your breathing. When emotions spike, your breath often quickens. This tension shows on your face. Slowing your breathing calms your body and helps keep your expression steady. Imagine you are at work and a colleague criticizes your project harshly in front of others. Your instinct might be to frown or glare. If you take a slow breath before reacting, you give yourself a moment to maintain control. You can then respond with measured words instead of visible anger. A good poker face also relies on controlling your eyes. Eyes reveal excitement, fear, and frustration more clearly than any other feature. Avoid rapid blinking or darting glances. Keep your gaze steady, but not aggressive. Think of a professional chess player. When their opponent makes a bold move, they do not widen their eyes or shake their head. They simply study the board with calm focus. This composure makes them harder to read and harder to defeat. Consider a high-stakes negotiation. You are discussing a deal worth millions. The other party presents terms that you secretly find very favorable. If you smile or nod eagerly, you show your hand. They may then backtrack or demand more. If you keep your face neutral, they cannot tell what you are thinking. You can continue the discussion on your terms without giving away leverage. The poker face is equally important in conflict. Picture an argument where one person shouts, trying to provoke a reaction. If you match their anger with visible frustration, the conflict escalates. If you stay calm, showing no reaction, their energy loses impact. This often disarms them. Over time, they may even adjust their behavior because they see that their attempts to provoke you no longer work. There are times when staying neutral protects relationships. Suppose a friend confides in you about a personal mistake. If your face shows shock or judgment, they may feel ashamed and shut down. If you keep your expression calm and open, they feel safe continuing. Your lack of visible reaction signals that you are listening without rushing to judge. In leadership, a poker face prevents panic. Employees look to leaders for cues on how to react. If a leader looks anxious, the team feels anxious. If the leader stays composed, the team feels stable. Imagine a company facing sudden layoffs. A manager who shows visible fear spreads chaos. A manager who speaks calmly with a neutral expression creates an atmosphere of control, even in crisis. Training for this skill requires practice under pressure. Start with small challenges. When someone tells you surprising news, pause before reacting. Keep your expression steady while you process the information internally. If you feel the urge to laugh, frown, or wince, resist it. Over time, you will build the discipline to maintain this control in higher stakes situations. Be mindful of micro-expressions. These are tiny, involuntary facial movements that happen in a fraction of a second. They often reveal true emotions, even when you think you are hiding them. While it is difficult to stop micro-expressions entirely, awareness helps reduce their impact. By practicing slow breathing and calm focus, you can minimize these flashes of emotion. Consider how actors train for roles. They spend hours practicing expressions to convey precise feelings. You are doing the reverse, training to show less. This does not mean becoming expressionless all the time. It means choosing when to reveal emotion and when to keep it hidden. A practical exercise is role-playing. Have a trusted friend or colleague try to provoke reactions with questions or statements. Your job is to stay neutral no matter what they say. This builds resilience. You will learn how to maintain composure even when caught off guard. The poker face also pairs well with deliberate speech. If your face is calm, but your words are rushed or defensive, you still reveal tension. Speak slowly and clearly. Pause before answering difficult questions. This reinforces the impression of control. An example of this in action is during a job interview. The interviewer asks a challenging question meant to test you. Instead of showing nervousness, you keep your face neutral, take a moment, and then respond with steady words. This shows confidence and composure. The interviewer leaves with the impression that you handle pressure well, even in personal life. Poker face can prevent unnecessary drama. Suppose a family member tries to start an argument during a holiday dinner. If you roll your eyes or smirk, the fight escalates. If you remain calm, showing nothing on your face, their attempt fizzles. You maintain peace without saying a word. The key is balance. If your face is too stiff or blank, you may seem distant or cold. Aim for relaxed neutrality. Your expression should show that you are present and listening, but not reacting emotionally. Think of it as a smooth lake surface, calm, reflective, and undisturbed, even when storms rage beneath. Over time, mastering the poker face becomes second nature. In negotiations, conflicts, and everyday conversations, it gives you an edge. Others reveal themselves through their expressions, while you remain steady. This quiet control allows you to guide interactions without force, using restraint as a form of strength. A compliment can build trust faster than almost anything else, but only when it is sincere and used with care. Too many compliments lose their effect. They start to sound like flattery, which makes people suspicious of your motives. A single well-placed compliment, given at the right moment, can create a bond that words of logic or persuasion cannot. The key is balance. When you compliment sparingly, each one carries weight and feels genuine. Imagine two coworkers. One gives praise constantly, saying things like, "Great job," "You're amazing," or "That's brilliant," several times a day. At first, it feels nice, but after a while, it starts to feel routine. The words become background noise. The other coworker waits until they'll see something truly worth acknowledging. When they say, "Your presentation today was sharp and well-structured," it lands with impact. The receiver knows the praise is real because it does not come often or lightly. Compliments must be specific to have power. Vague praise feels hollow. If you tell someone, "You're great," they may smile, but they won't know what you value about them. If you say, "Your calm handling of that client problem kept the team focused," they know exactly what they did right. This not only builds trust, but also encourages them to repeat the behavior. Specific compliments are harder to fake, which makes them more believable. Sincerity is essential. People can sense when praise is forced or exaggerated. A compliment given to manipulate often backfires. It makes the other person wary, as if they are being played. For instance, a manager who gushes about an employee's performance right before assigning extra work creates doubt. The employee may think, "Are they praising me because they mean it, or because they need me to do something difficult?" When compliments come without hidden agendas, they strengthen relationships instead of weakening them. Consider a negotiation. One party says, "I respect the way you've handled this process so far." This small compliment softens the tone and makes the other side more open to discussion. If the same person piled on praise, saying, "You're the smartest negotiator I've ever met, and your strategies are perfect," it would sound false. The listener would question their intentions. In this setting, a single, understated compliment builds rapport while keeping the conversation professional. Compliments can also disarm tension. Picture a heated meeting where voices are rising. You calmly say to a frustrated team member, "I know you care about this project and your dedication is clear." That statement acknowledges their emotion and redirects the energy. It shows respect without taking sides. The person feels seen, which often lowers hostility. Timing matters as much as content. A compliment given too soon can seem strategic rather than genuine. Waiting for the right moment makes it meaningful. For example, praising a colleague immediately after they finish a task might seem like routine politeness. Praising them later, when reflecting on the impact of their work, feels deeper. The delay signals that you truly thought about it. Scarcity gives compliments power. When people know you don't hand them out freely, they value them more. This works the same way scarcity works with material goods. A rare coin has more worth than a common one. If you praise everyone constantly, your words lose value. If you reserve praise for moments when it matters, your compliment becomes rare currency. Body language plays a role. When you give a compliment, look the person in the eye and keep your tone steady. Avoid over-the-top enthusiasm or forced smiles. A calm, direct delivery shows that you mean what you say. For instance, "You handled that call well," said plainly and with sincerity, is stronger than, "Oh wow, you were absolutely amazing," exaggerated with hand gestures and excitement. In leadership, strategic compliments can guide behavior. Suppose a manager wants their team to take more initiative. When someone does, the manager gives a clear, specific compliment. "I appreciate how you solved that problem without waiting for direction." This reinforces the desired behavior without needing a lecture. Over time, the team understands what actions earn recognition and adjusts naturally. Compliments can also strengthen negotiations when used sparingly. Imagine you are discussing a difficult deal. At a tense moment, you say, "I respect your persistence on this issue." The compliment softens the exchange, making the other person feel valued even as you continue to disagree. If you keep offering praise throughout the discussion, it loses its effect and starts to seem like manipulation. There are times when holding back a compliment is as powerful as getting one. If someone constantly seeks validation, withholding praise creates space for them to self-assess. When you do eventually offer a compliment, it carries even more meaning because it is rare. This teaches people to value your approval rather than expect it. In personal relationships, compliments can build intimacy, but they must still be used thoughtfully. If you compliment a partner every day in the same way, the words fade into routine. If you notice a specific detail, a well-chosen outfit, a thoughtful gesture, a moment of strength, and speak to that, it feels real. For instance, saying, "I appreciated how patient you were with my family tonight," has far more impact than a generic, "You're wonderful." Compliments can also be used strategically to calm conflict. Suppose you and a friend disagree. Before presenting your point, you say, "I value how much you care about this issue." This statement creates a bridge. It tells them you see their intentions even if you don't agree with their approach. That small moment of recognition makes them more willing to listen. Be careful not to turn compliments into bargaining chips. If you praise someone only when you want something, they will sense it. Over time, they may stop trusting your words altogether. True compliments stand alone. They are not followed by a request or condition. One way to check yourself is to ask, "Would I say this if nothing were at stake?" If the answer is yes, the compliment is likely sincere. If the answer is no, hold it back. People value authenticity above all else. A practical scenario can bring this to life. Picture a company meeting where an employee presents a new idea. After the presentation, you stand up and say, "Your analysis was thorough, and your explanation made the complex parts clear." Then you sit down. The room understands the value of the work because you chose to speak up once, clearly and briefly. If you had gone on and on about every detail you liked, the praise would have seemed forced. Compliments, when used well, act like precision tools. They can build trust, reduce tension, and encourage positive behavior. When overused, they become noise. By keeping them rare, specific, and genuine, you ensure that each one matters. People come to see your praise as a reflection of truth, rather than strategy. That trust makes your words powerful, even when they are few. Knowing when to walk away is one of the strongest forms of control you can have. Many people stay in bad situations because they fear loss. They worry about what others will think, or they cling to the hope that things will change. This fear traps them and gives others leverage over them. When you develop the mindset that you can leave any situation, job, relationship, negotiation, or argument, you hold the power. You are no longer dependent on outcomes you can't control. Picture a negotiation where one side needs the deal more than the other. The side that cannot walk away is at a disadvantage from the start. They accept bad terms because they fear losing everything. The other side senses this desperation and pushes harder. If both sides believe they can leave, the balance shifts. The one with true freedom makes decisions based on strategy, not fear. This is why in high-stakes negotiations, the person who is most willing to walk away often wins. Consider a job situation. An employee stays at a company that underpays and undervalues them. They keep accepting poor treatment because they feel stuck. Their employer knows this and continues to pile on work without reward. Now imagine the same employee who has prepared by building skills, networking, and saving money. They know they can leave if needed. When their boss tries to pressure them, they can calmly say, "That doesn't work for me." The power dynamic flips. The boss realizes they cannot control someone who has options. Walking away is not about anger or revenge. It is about clarity. It means you have decided what you will and will not accept, and you act accordingly. For example, if you are in a toxic relationship where the other person constantly disrespects you, staying and hoping they will change only drains you. Leaving is not a punishment. It is a statement that you value yourself enough to choose peace over chaos. This skill requires preparation. If you are financially tied to a job or emotionally tied to a person, leaving feels impossible. The first step is to quietly create options, build savings, gain experience, form new connections. When you have a strong foundation, you are no longer trapped. This preparation is like packing a parachute. You hope you never need it, but when the moment comes, you are ready to jump. An example of this is a business partnership. Two founders start a company, but over time, one begins making reckless decisions. The other feels uneasy but stays silent, fearing what will happen if they leave. Eventually, the company suffers. If the cautious partner had prepared an exit plan early, they could have walked away before the damage grew. Instead of being dragged down, they could have used their freedom to start fresh. Knowing when to walk away also applies to everyday arguments. People often fight to be right, even when winning brings no benefit. Suppose someone insults you at a party. You could argue, defend yourself, or try to humiliate them back. None of these actions improve the situation. If you simply turn and walk away, you take the oxygen out of the conflict. The other person is left with their anger, while you keep your dignity intact. In poker, players talk about folding. The odds are bad. A skilled player does not stay in every hand out of pride. They step back, save their chips, and wait for a better opportunity. Life works the same way. Sometimes the smartest move is to fold, to leave the table rather than stay in a losing game. Fear of loss often clouds judgment. People stay in bad deals because they have already invested time or resources. This is called the sunk cost trap. Imagine someone who has spent years working on a project that no longer has value. Instead of cutting their losses, they keep pushing, telling themselves it will turn around. Walking away feels like failure. In reality, leaving frees them to focus on something better. The time and energy they save become their true gain. Walking away can also be a negotiation tactic. Suppose you are buying a car and the dealer refuses to meet your price. If you keep arguing, they control the interaction. If you stand up and say, "Thank you for your time," and head for the door, you send a clear signal. Often the dealer will call you back with a better offer. Even if they don't, you maintain your integrity and avoid overpaying. There is strength in silence during this process. When you decide to leave, do it calmly. Dramatic exits may feel satisfying, but they often create unnecessary problems. A quiet, steady departure shows true control. Imagine a meeting where someone tries to provoke you. Instead of yelling or slamming the door, you gather your things, nod politely, and leave. The calmness speaks louder than any words. Walking away is not always physical. Sometimes it means disengaging mentally or emotionally. If someone tries to manipulate you, you can stop playing their game without announcing it. By refusing to react, you take back control. For instance, if a coworker spreads rumors to get a reaction from you, responding only feeds them. By staying neutral and detached, you effectively walk away from their trap. Preparation also means knowing your boundaries ahead of time. If you wait until a crisis to decide what you will tolerate, emotions may cloud your judgment. Write down what lines cannot be crossed. For example, you might decide that if a business partner lies to you, you will end the partnership immediately. Having this clarity makes walking away easier when the moment comes, because you are not making the decision in the heat of the moment. Sometimes walking away opens doors you could not see before. Picture someone leaving a long-term job that no longer challenges them. At first, the move feels risky. Then they discover opportunities they never would have explored if they had stayed comfortable. The act of leaving creates space for growth. The ability to walk away also changes how others see you. When people know you have the courage to leave, they treat you with more respect. They understand that they cannot push you past your limits. This dynamic shifts power in subtle ways. You no longer need to demand respect because your actions command it. There is a quiet confidence in someone who is willing to leave. They do not cling to people or situations out of fear. This calm strength draws others in. Consider a leader who negotiates a deal. If the other side senses desperation, they will exploit it. If they sense calm detachment, they will work harder to earn agreement. The willingness to walk away creates leverage without a single threat. The practice of walking away starts small. Begin with low-stakes situations. If a conversation turns unproductive, excuse yourself instead of staying and arguing. If a minor purchase feels wrong, put it back on the shelf and leave the store. These small choices build the habit of freedom. Over time, you will trust yourself to act decisively when bigger challenges arise. Walking away is not about running from problems. It is about knowing when a situation no longer serves you. It is a decision rooted in strength, not weakness. When you master this skill, you become untouchable. You are never trapped because you always hold the option to leave. That choice alone changes how you approach every interaction and every decision you face. People are naturally curious. When they do not know everything about you, their imagination fills in the gaps. This curiosity creates interest and influence. The more you reveal, the more predictable you become. When others can predict you, they can manipulate you. Mystery protects you by keeping others unsure of your next move. It also makes you more intriguing. Humans value what they cannot fully understand. By keeping parts of your life private, you create an aura of depth and control. Imagine meeting two new coworkers. The first talks openly about every detail of their life, their relationships, finances, opinions, and daily struggles. Within a week, you feel like you know everything about them. There is nothing left to wonder about, and you start to take them for granted. The second coworker is friendly but reserved. They share only what is necessary. You notice small hints about their interests, but never the full picture. You find yourself paying closer attention to them. Their restraint creates a sense of importance. Mystery begins with silence. You do not need to answer every question or fill every pause. If someone asks about your weekend, you can give a simple, neutral answer like, "It was good, thank you," instead of describing every detail. This small act creates space. The other person may wonder what you did and why you are not sharing. That curiosity works in your favor. Consider negotiations. If you reveal your bottom line too soon, the other party gains leverage. If you keep certain details private, they must guess. This uncertainty keeps them cautious. For example, imagine you are discussing salary with a potential employer. If you immediately state, I need at least 70,000. You set a ceiling for yourself. If you instead say, I'm open to a fair offer based on my experience, you leave room for them to reveal their position first. Your mystery forces them to show their hand while you remain unreadable. Mystery also protects you from manipulation. Manipulators need information to control you. They look for weaknesses, desires, and fears. If you share too much, you give them tools to use against you. Suppose a coworker knows you are desperate for approval. They may withhold praise to make you work harder. If you keep your emotions private, they cannot play that game. They are left guessing about what drives you, which limits their power. Social media makes this especially challenging. Many people post constant updates about their lives, revealing their routines, opinions, and relationships to everyone watching. This creates a clear map of their behavior. Anyone studying that map can predict their moves and influence them. By sharing less online, you keep control of your narrative. Post selectively or not at all. Let people wonder where you are and what you are doing. That uncertainty builds strength. Mystery does not mean being cold or distant. You can still be warm and engaging without revealing everything. Think of a skilled storyteller. They give just enough information to keep the audience interested, never spoiling the ending. In conversation, you can do the same. Share pieces of yourself in layers. For instance, if someone asks about your hobbies, you might say, I like to stay active, instead of listing every activity. Later, you might mention that you enjoy hiking or martial arts. Each detail comes slowly, keeping the other person intrigued. An example of this is seen in leadership. A leader who reveals every plan and feeling loses authority. If employees know exactly how the leader will react, they can predict and manipulate decisions. A leader who shares only what is necessary creates respect. Their team pays attention because each statement feels deliberate. The unknown makes their presence stronger. Mystery also applies in personal relationships. Early in dating, people often overshare in an attempt to build closeness quickly. This can backfire. If someone knows your entire history within the first few conversations, the intrigue fades. A better approach is to reveal yourself gradually. This does not mean lying or hiding important truths. It means letting the other person discover who you are over time. That process builds genuine interest and keeps the connection balanced. Think of classic movie characters who seem powerful and charismatic. Often, their strength comes not from what they say, but from what they leave unsaid. A hero who never explains every decision forces others to interpret their actions. This creates a sense of depth and mystery. You can apply the same principle to real life by speaking with purpose and avoiding unnecessary explanations. In conflict, mystery can prevent escalation. If someone tries to provoke you, reacting emotionally gives them control. If you keep your expression and words measured, they are left uncertain about your thoughts. This makes it harder for them to continue the attack. For instance, if a rival at work criticizes you in a meeting, a calm nod and simple reply like, I hear your point, leaves them wondering what you really think. That uncertainty unsettles them more than a heated argument ever could. Mystery also creates anticipation. When people do not have full access to you, they value the time and information you do share. Consider a mentor who meets with their mentee only occasionally. Each meeting feels important because it is rare. If they were always available, the mentee might take them for granted. The scarcity of access makes every interaction meaningful. There is a balance to maintain. Too much mystery can create distance or suspicion. If you never share anything, people may see you as untrustworthy. The key is selective disclosure. Share enough to build connection, but hold back enough to keep others curious. For example, in a team project, you might discuss your professional ideas openly, while keeping personal matters private. Colleagues see you as engaged, but not fully exposed. Body language plays a role in maintaining mystery. A calm posture, steady eye contact, and controlled gestures make you appear confident and unreadable. Fidgeting, over-explaining, or rushing to fill silence reveals nerves. Imagine someone asking you a difficult question. If you pause, breathe, and answer briefly, they are left wondering what you might be thinking. If you immediately blurt out a long defense, they can read your fear. Mystery also builds allure in social circles. A person who talks less about themselves often becomes the focus of conversation. Others speculate about their life, filling in the blanks with their own ideas. This can create a reputation that grows beyond what you actually reveal. For instance, someone might assume you have exciting plans because you never broadcast them, when in reality, you are simply private. The perception becomes more powerful than the truth. Consider a scenario where you are negotiating a business deal. The other side asks if you have competing offers. If you answer directly with a simple yes or no, they know exactly where you stand. If you respond with, "We're exploring several options right now," you keep them uncertain. That uncertainty may push them to offer better terms to secure your commitment. Your mystery gives you leverage without confrontation. Practicing mystery takes discipline. It requires resisting the urge to explain yourself fully or seek validation through sharing. Start by noticing when you give away unnecessary details. When someone asks a personal question, consider what you gain by answering. If there is no benefit, keep your response brief and neutral. Over time, this habit becomes natural. The power of mystery lies in control. By revealing only what you choose, you shape how others see you. They cannot predict you, corner you, or use your own words against you. Instead, they approach you with caution and respect. Mystery makes you difficult to manipulate and impossible to ignore. Reverse psychology works because people like to feel in control of their decisions. When they believe someone is trying to force them in a certain direction, they resist. If you instead suggest the opposite of what you want, they often push back against you and end up doing exactly what you hoped for. It is not about lying or tricking people in a cruel way. It is about understanding how human nature works and using it with subtlety. When done well, the other person feels like the decision was entirely their own. Imagine a parent dealing with a child who refuses to eat vegetables. If the parent says, "You must eat your broccoli right now," the child's instinct is to resist. The battle becomes about control, rather than food. If the parent casually says, "You probably won't like this broccoli, so I'll eat it instead," the child might suddenly grab it and take a bite. The desire to assert independence drives the action. The same pattern appears in adults, though it is less obvious. Consider a workplace example. A manager wants an employee to take on a challenging project, but the employee is hesitant. If the manager pushes directly, saying, "You should take this project, it's perfect for you," the employee might dig in their heels, worrying about pressure or expectations. If the manager instead says, "I understand if you're not ready for this project yet. It's a big challenge, and it might be better for someone else right now," the employee feels their pride stir. They may respond by saying, "I can handle it, I'll take it on." The manager gets the result they wanted without confrontation. Reverse psychology depends on subtlety. If you are obvious about it, the other person will see through the attempt and feel manipulated. The key is to sound sincere when you suggest the opposite outcome. This requires calm tone and natural timing. If you exaggerate or use dramatic language, you reveal your true motive. For instance, saying, "Oh, please don't work late tonight. I'd hate for you to be too productive," comes across as sarcasm. A better approach would be, "You've been working hard lately. It might make sense to take it easy on this one." This feels genuine, which makes it effective. The tactic works well when someone already leans toward a decision but is hesitating. By giving them gentle resistance, you make them push past their own doubts. Think of a friend deciding whether to apply for a promotion. If you say, "You'd be great for it, you should definitely apply," they might list reasons why they aren't ready. If you instead say, "It's a big step, and maybe the timing isn't right for you yet," they might suddenly defend themselves by saying, "Actually, I think I am ready." By appearing to doubt them, you spark their desire to prove you wrong. In negotiations, reverse psychology can create leverage. Suppose you are selling a car. A potential buyer seems interested but hesitant. Instead of pressuring them, you say, "Honestly, this car might not be the best fit for you. It's a bit more than what you were looking for." The buyer now feels a stronger urge to claim the car, insisting it is exactly what they want. They may even push to close the deal faster, fearing it will go to someone else. Parents often use reverse psychology instinctively. A teenager might refuse to clean their room when told to do it directly. If the parent says, "Fine, you don't need to clean it, but don't be upset when you can't find your things," the teen might clean it on their own to reassert independence. The same principle applies to adults. When people feel their freedom of choice is threatened, they resist. When they feel like they are making the choice freely, they embrace it. Timing is critical. Reverse psychology works best when emotions are already present. If someone feels strongly about a decision, a gentle push in the opposite direction can redirect that energy. If there is no emotion involved, the tactic may fall flat. For example, if someone has no real interest in going to a party, telling them they probably wouldn't enjoy it won't make them go. But if they are already on the fence, saying, "It's probably not your kind of scene," may tip them into deciding to attend just to prove you wrong. This approach also works in group settings. Suppose a team is brainstorming ideas, and you want them to choose a certain strategy. Instead of pushing your preferred plan, you suggest a weaker option and act like you believe it will be selected. The group, sensing your certainty, may rally against it and end up choosing the plan you wanted all along. They feel united in making their own decision, while you guided the outcome from behind the scenes. Reverse psychology is especially powerful when dealing with stubborn personalities. Some people automatically resist direct instructions. If you say, "You need to calm down," they become more agitated. If you say, "Stay upset if you want, it's your choice," they may begin to calm down on their own. By removing the direct challenge, you let them reclaim control in a way that serves your goal. An example of this is in conflict resolution. Two coworkers are arguing. One wants to keep fighting, while the other wants peace. If the second coworker says, "Let's stop arguing," the first may continue just to win. If instead they say, "You know what? Keep arguing if it makes you feel better," the first person may lose interest. Without resistance, the fight loses its fuel. There are limits to this strategy. If used too often, people may start to recognize the pattern. They will see it as manipulation and lose trust. That is why reverse psychology should be occasional and subtle. Think of it like salt in cooking. A little brings out the flavor. Too much ruins the dish. It also requires self-control. You must be willing to let go of your ego. Reverse psychology works because you allow the other person to feel like they are leading the interaction. If you need to be seen as the one in charge, this tactic will fail. The power lies in guiding quietly from the background. Body language matters too. If your words suggest one thing, but your face or tone gives away your true desire, the effect disappears. Suppose you tell a coworker, "You probably shouldn't take on that extra project," but you say it with a hopeful smile. They will know you want them to take it. Keep your expression neutral and your voice calm. The more natural you seem, the more effective the tactic becomes. Reverse psychology can even work on yourself. Sometimes you resist your own goals. If you tell yourself, "I must go to the gym today," part of you may push back. If you instead think, "I don't have to go, I can skip it if I want," you may find yourself choosing to go freely. This removes the feeling of obligation and restores a sense of choice. In a high-stakes situation, reverse psychology must be used carefully. Imagine a company merger negotiation. If one side says, "Maybe this deal isn't right for us after all," the other side may rush to save it, offering better terms. But if the first side overplays their hand, the deal might collapse entirely. The key is subtle balance. Enough doubt to create urgency, not so much that the opportunity disappears. Reverse psychology works because people value autonomy. When they feel someone is trying to control them, they rebel. When they believe they are making their own decisions, they commit more strongly. By gently guiding from the opposite direction, you allow others to feel powerful while quietly steering them toward the result you want. It is a quiet form of influence, invisible when done correctly, but deeply effective. Calibrated questions are a way to guide others without creating resistance. When you demand something, people often push back. They feel cornered and want to protect their independence. A direct order, like "do this now," might get short-term results, but it also creates tension and resentment. A calibrated question, on the other hand, invites cooperation. It makes the other person think, and in the process, they often move toward your desired outcome on their own. Imagine you are in a meeting and a teammate is blocking progress on a project. If you say, "You need to stop delaying and deliver your part," they may become defensive and dig in. If you instead ask, "What steps do you think we can take to meet the deadline together?" you shift the dynamic. The question makes them part of the solution. It forces them to consider the problem from a shared perspective rather than feeling attacked. Calibrated questions work because they remove blame. They focus on possibilities instead of conflict. When someone hears a question, their mind opens to finding an answer. A statement, especially a harsh one, closes that door. Think of a locked room. A demand is like pounding on the door. A question is like handing someone the key and letting them open it themselves. In negotiations, this tactic is especially powerful. Suppose you are buying a house. The seller's price is too high. Instead of saying, "That number is ridiculous, lower it," you ask, "How did you arrive at that price?" The seller now has to explain their reasoning. This often reveals weaknesses you can use later. Another effective question is, what flexibility do we have to make this work for both sides? It shifts the conversation from confrontation to problem solving. Timing matters. Calibrated questions work best when emotions are under control. If either side is angry, the question can feel manipulative. Before asking, make sure your tone is calm and your body language is open. A steady, neutral delivery prevents the other person from feeling pressured. Consider a scenario with a difficult client. They want changes that are unrealistic and outside the scope of the project. Instead of saying, "We can't do that," you ask, "How do you see these changes fitting into the budget we agreed on?" The question places responsibility back on them. It makes them think about the limits without you having to say no directly. Often, they will adjust their requests themselves, which keeps the relationship positive. Calibrated questions are also useful in leadership. A manager could say, "You must increase sales by 10% this quarter," which creates stress and resistance. Or they could ask, "What strategies do you think will help us reach 10% growth?" This invites the team to take ownership of the goal. When people feel like they came up with the solution, they are more motivated to act. There is a psychological effect at work here. Humans like to be consistent with their own words. When someone says an idea out loud, they become more committed to it. By guiding them with questions, you help them voice the outcome you want. Later, when they act on it, they feel it was their decision all along. Even in personal relationships, this method prevents conflict. Suppose your partner leaves dishes in the sink. If you say, "You never clean up after yourself," it will likely lead to an argument. If you instead ask, "How can we keep the kitchen clean so it feels good for both of us?" you open a conversation. The problem remains the same, but the approach changes the energy. Calibrated questions are not about being passive. They are a form of subtle direction. You are still leading the conversation, but you are doing it in a way that respects the other person's autonomy. This makes them more willing to follow your lead. It is like guiding a boat with the current, rather than fighting against it. The wording of your question matters. Questions that start with "why" can sound accusatory. For example, "Why did you do that?" often puts people on the defensive. Instead, use "what" or "how." These words focus on actions and solutions rather than blame. What made this outcome difficult to achieve? Or how can we prevent this from happening again? Invite reflection without hostility. An example of this in action comes from crisis negotiation. A negotiator dealing with a hostage taker might ask, what needs to happen for everyone to walk away safely? This shifts the focus from demands to a shared goal. It also gives the other person a sense of control. They must think about the answer rather than reacting impulsively. In everyday life, the stakes are lower, but the principle is the same. Calibrated questions also slow down tense conversations. When emotions run high, people tend to speak without thinking. A well-placed question interrupts that pattern. It forces everyone to pause and consider their words. For instance, during a heated team meeting, you might say, "What do we need to prioritize right now to move forward?" The question cuts through the noise and brings focus back to action. Silence plays a role here too. After asking a calibrated question, resist the urge to fill the space. Give the other person time to think. The pause increases the weight of the question. It also shows that you are listening. Many people rush to speak, but waiting calmly often encourages the other person to reveal more than they intended. This technique can uncover hidden motives. Suppose a colleague resists a new policy. Instead of confronting them, you ask, "How do you see this change affecting your work?" Their answer may reveal fears or concerns you didn't know about. With that information, calibrated questions are a way to guide others without creating resistance. When you demand something, people often push back. They feel cornered and want to protect their independence. A direct order like "do this now" might get short-term results, but it also creates tension and resentment. A calibrated question, on the other hand, invites cooperation. It makes the other person think, and in the process, they often move toward your desired outcome on their own. Imagine you are in a meeting and a teammate is blocking progress on a project. If you say, "You need to stop delaying and deliver your part," they may become defensive and dig in. If you instead ask, "What steps do you think we can take to meet the deadline together?" you shift the dynamic. The question makes them part of the solution. It forces them to consider the problem from a shared perspective rather than feeling attacked. Calibrated questions work because they remove blame. They focus on possibilities instead of conflict. When someone hears a question, their mind opens to finding an answer. A statement, especially a harsh one, closes that door. Think of a locked room. A demand is like pounding on the door. A question is like handing someone the key and letting them open it themselves. In negotiations, this tactic is especially powerful. Suppose you are buying a house. The seller's price is too high. Instead of saying, "That number is ridiculous, lower it," you ask, "How did you arrive at that price?" The seller now has to explain their reasoning. This often reveals weaknesses you can use later. Another effective question is, what emotions drive behavior more than logic? In tense situations, people often react from a place of anger, fear, or frustration, rather than clear thinking. When someone feels unheard or misunderstood, their emotions intensify and the conflict grows. Emotional labeling is a simple but powerful way to break this cycle. By calmly naming the other person's emotion, you show them that you understand how they feel. This alone can lower their defenses and bring the conversation back to a place where solutions are possible. Imagine a heated workplace meeting. A team member slams their notebook shut and says, "This project is a disaster. Nothing is working." If you respond with facts or try to argue, the tension will rise. If you say instead, "It sounds like you're feeling overwhelmed," the mood shifts. The person hears their feelings acknowledged without judgment. Often, they will pause, take a breath, and say, "Yeah, I am. It's been a rough week." That small moment of recognition creates space for a calmer discussion. Labeling works because people want to be understood. When you put words to their feelings, they feel seen. This doesn't mean you agree with their perspective or condone their behavior. You are simply naming what is happening beneath the surface. It's like holding up a mirror. The person sees themselves more clearly, which helps them regain control. Consider a customer service scenario. A customer yells about a late delivery. The representative could respond defensively, saying, "We're doing our best, please calm down." That would likely make the customer angrier. If the representative instead says, "It sounds like you're really frustrated by this delay," the customer often softens. Their anger begins to subside because someone acknowledged it. Once they feel heard, they are more open to problem solving. The key is to stay calm. Your tone must be even and steady. If you sound sarcastic or impatient, the label backfires. For example, saying, "Oh, so you're angry, huh?" in a sharp tone will escalate the situation. The same words spoken calmly, "It seems like you're feeling angry," have the opposite effect. Body language matters too. Keep your posture relaxed and your expression neutral. This signals safety and prevents further escalation. Timing matters as well. Label the emotion early, before the situation spirals. If someone is showing clear signs of stress, clenched fists, raised voice, short sentences, acknowledge it right away. Waiting too long allows the emotion to build until it's harder to diffuse. Think of a boiling pot. If you take it off the heat early, it cools quickly. If you wait too long, it spills over. Emotional labeling works in negotiations. Suppose you are discussing a contract and the other party suddenly goes quiet. Instead of filling the silence with nervous talking, you might say, "It seems like you're concerned about something." This shows that you are paying attention and invites them to share their worry. Often, they will reveal the issue, giving you valuable information. Without labeling, the concern might have stayed hidden, blocking progress. This technique also helps in personal relationships. If a partner comes home and snaps at you about a minor issue, it's tempting to snap back. That creates a fight where both sides feel attacked. If you instead say, "You sound stressed about your day," you shift the focus. The other person feels understood and may open up about what's really bothering them. A small act of empathy can prevent a major argument. Emotional labeling doesn't just help others, it also helps you stay centered. By focusing on identifying the other person's feelings, you shift your own attention away from anger or defensiveness. You become an observer rather than a participant in the conflict. This gives you mental space to respond strategically instead of reacting impulsively. There is a science behind this method. Neuroscience studies show that when people label their emotions, activity in the part of the brain responsible for fear and anger decreases. It's like releasing pressure from a valve. By labeling someone else's emotions, you help them process what they are feeling without being overwhelmed by it. Even if they don't say anything, the act of hearing their feelings named can calm them. Consider a parent dealing with a child's tantrum. The child screams and throws toys. If the parent shouts back, the tantrum escalates. If the parent kneels down and says, "You're feeling really upset right now because you wanted that toy," the child often begins to settle. The simple acknowledgement validates the emotion, even if the behavior isn't acceptable. Adults are no different. Deep down, everyone wants their feelings to be noticed. Labeling works best when it's simple and direct. Avoid long sentences or complicated language. Phrases like, "It seems like you're feeling frustrated," or "You sound disappointed," are clear and effective. The goal is to reflect, not analyze. If you try to explain why they feel a certain way, you might trigger defensiveness. For example, saying, "You're angry because you didn't prepare well," is not labeling. It's criticism disguised as empathy. Stick to naming the emotion only. Sometimes you may misread the emotion. That's okay. Even an incorrect label can be useful because it gives the other person a chance to correct you. Suppose you say, "It sounds like you're angry," and they reply, "I'm not angry, I'm just stressed." Now you have valuable information about what they are actually feeling. The conversation becomes clearer, and you've shown that you care enough to try to understand. In tense business situations, labeling can keep negotiations from breaking down. Imagine two companies discussing a merger. One side suddenly becomes resistant. Instead of pushing harder, you say, "It seems like there's some hesitation about moving forward." This opens the door for them to express concerns without losing face. It also positions you as calm and professional, someone they can trust, even in difficult moments. Labeling can also reveal hidden motives. A coworker might resist a new project, giving vague reasons. If you say, "It seems like you're worried about how this will affect your workload," they might open up about their real concern. Without that insight, you might waste time arguing about surface-level issues while the true problem remains unspoken. Silence is an important companion to labeling. After you name the emotion, pause. Let the words sink in. Resist the urge to keep talking. The silence gives the other person space to respond. Often, they will start sharing more than they planned. If you rush to fill the gap, you lose that opportunity. Practice makes this skill stronger. Start in everyday conversations. When someone expresses even mild frustration, like complaining about traffic, you can respond with, "That sounds irritating." Watch how their posture shifts and their tone softens. Small, low-stakes moments prepare you for bigger challenges, like workplace conflicts or tense negotiations. Emotional labeling also works well alongside other techniques, such as calibrated questions. After labeling, you might ask, "What can we do to make this situation better?" The label shows empathy, while the question shifts the focus to problem solving. Together, they create a powerful combination that keeps conversations constructive. The power of emotional labeling lies in its simplicity. You don't need to solve the problem immediately or even agree with the other person. By calmly naming what they feel, you show respect and understanding. That alone can diffuse tension and change the direction of the interaction. In moments of conflict, it turns chaos into clarity, giving you the space to guide the outcome with calm confidence. The human mind does not like unfinished business. When something is left incomplete, it lingers in our thoughts, creating a subtle itch to return to it. This is called the Zeigarnik Effect. Psychologists first noticed it when waiters could remember complex orders perfectly until the meals were delivered. Once the order was complete, the memory faded quickly. The brain holds on to incomplete tasks because it wants closure. You can use this natural tendency to influence how others think about you and your ideas. By leaving a conversation or task slightly unfinished, you stay on someone's mind long after you are gone. Imagine telling someone a story and stopping at a key moment. You say, "Remind me to finish this later," and then change the subject. The listener's brain will keep returning to the unfinished story, wondering how it ends. They will think about you even when you are not there, because their mind wants resolution. This same principle works in professional settings. If you present a new idea in a meeting and hint at a solution without giving every detail, people will keep thinking about it. Their curiosity drives them to engage more deeply with your proposal. Consider a manager discussing a potential promotion with an employee. Instead of laying out every step clearly, the manager says, "There's an opportunity coming up that could be a great fit for you, but I need to see a bit more initiative before we talk specifics." The employee leaves the conversation focused on what they need to do next. Their mind keeps working on the problem because the path forward is incomplete. This is far more powerful than a simple yes or no, which closes the loop immediately. The Zeigarnik Effect can also be used in negotiations. Suppose you are selling a product or service. Instead of listing every feature and benefit, you reveal just enough to spark interest. You might say, "There's one feature in particular that could really solve your problem, but I'd like to hear more about your needs before we get into that." The other party now feels compelled to continue the conversation. Their curiosity keeps them engaged because they want to know what that feature is. Writers and storytellers use this principle all the time. Cliffhangers at the end of TV episodes work because they leave the story unresolved. Viewers feel an almost physical need to know what happens next, so they return. You can apply the same technique to everyday conversations. When you leave a discussion with a hint rather than a conclusion, you create a mental cliffhanger. The other person will seek you out again to finish the exchange. In leadership, leaving things slightly unfinished can motivate a team. If a manager gives a project plan that answers every question, team members may lose interest once they understand it fully. If the manager instead presents the vision but leaves space for the team to figure out key parts, their minds stay active. They become invested in solving the puzzle. This not only keeps them engaged, but also fosters creativity and ownership. This tactic works in personal relationships too. If you are always completely available and predictable, people may take you for granted. By occasionally leaving a message unanswered or ending a conversation on an intriguing note, you create a sense of mystery. The other person keeps thinking about you, wondering what you will say or do next. This doesn't mean playing games or being manipulative. It simply means allowing space for curiosity to grow instead of satisfying every question immediately. Consider a date where one person shares a little about their past, but not everything. They say, "There's a story behind why I started traveling so much, but I'll save that for another time." The listener leaves the date eager to learn more. The incomplete story builds anticipation and interest. If every detail had been revealed at once, there would be nothing left to discover. The Zeigarnik Effect can also be used in presentations or pitches. If you reveal just enough to spark intrigue, your audience will lean forward, waiting for more. For example, a speaker might say, "There's one key factor that determines success in this industry, and we'll get to it later." Even if the actual factor is simple, the audience stays engaged because they need closure. This keeps their attention far better than dumping all the information at once. In problem solving, leaving a task slightly unfinished can boost motivation. When you stop working in the middle of a challenge, your brain continues to process it subconsciously. Many people find that their best ideas come while walking, showering, or driving, because their mind is still working on the incomplete task. You can use this to your advantage by ending work sessions at a point where there is still something left to do. When you return, you will feel eager to finish, and your mind will have been preparing solutions in the background. Sales professionals use this effect deliberately. A skilled salesperson might say, "We have a solution that could save you time and money, but before I explain how, tell me more about your current process." The prospect now wants to hear the full solution and stays engaged throughout the conversation. The incomplete promise keeps them mentally hooked. Even in casual conversation, leaving something unfinished creates impact. Imagine telling a friend, "I saw something yesterday that completely changed how I think about my career. I'll have to tell you about it later." That friend will keep wondering what you meant. When you finally share the story, they will be fully attentive because their mind has been primed by curiosity. This tactic requires balance. If you never close the loop, people will grow frustrated or stop trusting you. The goal is to leave just enough open space to keep them thinking, then return to complete the conversation at the right moment. Think of it like seasoning food. Too little has no effect. Too much ruins the dish. Your tone matters as well. If you sound secretive or manipulative, people may feel suspicious. Speak with calm confidence. For example, saying, "We'll talk more about this soon," in a steady voice creates intrigue without pressure. The key is to seem deliberate, not evasive. The Zeigarnik Effect also applies to memory. When you end a conversation on a strong, unfinished note, the other person is more likely to remember it. If you always tie up every discussion neatly, it fades quickly. Leaving a small gap in understanding ensures that your words linger. This can be especially useful in interviews, speeches, or first impressions. Consider a job candidate who ends their interview by saying, "There's a project I worked on that directly relates to this role. I'd love to tell you about it if we meet again." The interviewer leaves curious and more likely to schedule a follow-up. The candidate has created a mental hook simply by withholding part of the story. Even digital communication benefits from this approach. Ending an email with a subtle question or hint encourages a response. Instead of writing, "Let me know if you're interested," you might say, "There's an option I haven't mentioned yet that could be a perfect fit. Would you like to hear about it?" The unfinished element draws the reader back in. Leaving things slightly incomplete is a form of controlled tension. It keeps attention focused and creates momentum. When people feel that something is unresolved, they cannot fully let go. By understanding and using the Zeigarnik Effect, you can remain present in their minds without constant effort, whether in business, relationships, or personal goals. A touch of incompleteness can be more powerful than total clarity. Predictability makes you easy to read and easy to control. When others know exactly how you will react, they can plan around you, manipulate you, and limit your choices. Staying unpredictable creates a layer of protection. It keeps people on edge because they never know what you will do next. This uncertainty forces them to treat you with caution and respect. Power often comes from making others guess. Imagine playing chess against someone whose moves follow the same pattern every time. After a few games, you can predict their strategy and defeat them easily. Now imagine an opponent who switches tactics, sometimes aggressive, sometimes defensive, always shifting without warning. You have to think harder and take fewer risks because you can never be sure what is coming. Life works the same way. If your actions are obvious, others exploit them. If you keep them guessing, they play carefully, giving you the advantage. Unpredictability starts with breaking habits that others can see. People often reveal patterns without realizing it. A manager who always says yes to extra work will be flooded with requests. A partner who always forgives bad behavior will face repeated disrespect. If you sometimes say yes and sometimes no, based on what serves you best, others must pay closer attention. They cannot assume you will react a certain way, so they approach you more carefully. Consider a workplace scenario. An employee always volunteers for the toughest tasks. Their boss comes to rely on this, assigning them more work than others. The employee feels trapped, but they continue saying yes because they fear being seen as uncooperative. The boss now controls them completely. If the employee begins to say no occasionally, without explanation, the balance shifts. The boss must think twice before assigning tasks because they are no longer sure of the outcome. That uncertainty protects the employee's time and energy. Unpredictability is not about chaos. It is about deliberate variation. Random actions without purpose make you look unstable. Strategic unpredictability means you control the pattern and use it to your benefit. For example, if you negotiate the same way every time, others learn to anticipate your tactics. If you sometimes lead with silence, sometimes with questions, and sometimes with direct offers, they cannot prepare as easily. You control the rhythm of the conversation. Think of a poker player. If they always bluff in the same situations, other players catch on and call their bluff. If they sometimes bluff and sometimes play straight, no one knows for sure. Every decision carries risk for the opponent. Your behavior should create that same tension in daily life. Relationships also depend on patterns. If you respond instantly to every message, you train others to expect constant access. If you sometimes respond quickly and sometimes take time, you remain in control. The other person cannot predict you, so they value your attention more. This does not mean playing games or deliberately ignoring someone. It means living your life on your terms instead of being completely predictable. Unpredictability can stop manipulation. Manipulators thrive on knowing how you will react. If they know a certain insult will make you angry, they use it to control you. If they know guilt will make you comply, they use that too. By changing your response, you take away their power. Imagine a coworker who criticizes you in meetings to get a reaction. If you always defend yourself, they keep attacking. If you sometimes respond calmly, sometimes ignore them, and sometimes counter with a question, they lose their script. Their tactic fails because they cannot predict the outcome. Even small changes can have a big effect. If you always take the same route to work, leave at the same time, and follow the same routine, others can track you easily. If you occasionally change your timing or route, you add a layer of privacy. This principle applies to behavior as well as movement. The more varied your actions, the harder it is for others to plan around you. Leaders often use unpredictability to maintain authority. A leader who always reacts the same way becomes easy to manipulate. If employees know exactly how their boss will respond to every situation, they can work around them. A leader who sometimes praises publicly and sometimes privately, sometimes pushes hard and sometimes steps back, keeps the team attentive. The uncertainty encourages focus and respect. Consider a negotiation. If the other party knows you will always compromise halfway, they start by demanding twice as much. They predict your move and win before the discussion begins. If you sometimes compromise, sometimes walk away, and sometimes stand firm, they cannot plan ahead. Each negotiation becomes a fresh challenge. This keeps you in control because they must react to you instead of the other way around. Unpredictability can also increase perceived value. People tend to want what feels rare or hard to obtain. If you are always available, your time and attention seem less valuable. If you vary your availability, others work harder to earn it. For example, a consultant who takes every client that calls is seen as ordinary. A consultant who sometimes declines projects without explanation creates demand. Clients begin to view their time as special and worth paying more for. There is a balance to maintain. Too much unpredictability creates confusion and distrust. If people never know what to expect, they may see you as unreliable. The goal is not to be erratic, but to remain just unpredictable enough that no one can fully control you. Think of it like weather. A clear pattern makes planning easy. Occasional storms force preparation and caution without destroying stability. Body language plays a role in staying unpredictable. If your face always shows your emotions, others can read you instantly. A neutral expression, like a poker face, keeps them guessing. Combine this with varied responses, and you become very difficult to manipulate. Someone who insults you, expecting anger, will be unsettled when you remain calm. Someone who expects calmness may be thrown off if you show controlled assertiveness. By shifting your visible reactions, you prevent others from locking you into a single role. In social settings, unpredictability creates intrigue. The person who tells every story, shares every detail, and always reacts the same way becomes familiar. Familiarity breeds boredom. The person who sometimes speaks and sometimes listens, who shares selectively, draws attention. Others become curious, trying to figure them out. That curiosity gives you quiet influence without effort. Consider a group project where one member always takes the lead. Everyone knows they will step up, so no one else tries. If that person occasionally steps back and lets others take charge, the group dynamic changes. Others must adapt, and leadership is seen as more valuable because it is not guaranteed. Unpredictability can even improve safety. In competitive environments, predictable routines make you vulnerable. A company that always announces decisions the same way gives rivals time to prepare. A competitor who varies their announcements and strategies forces others to scramble. On a personal level, unpredictability can protect against people who might take advantage of you financially or emotionally. If they cannot track your behavior, they cannot set traps as easily. Practicing unpredictability takes intention. Start small. If you usually answer every question immediately, pause sometimes before responding. If you always go to the same place for lunch, change it occasionally. These small acts build the habit of flexibility. Over time, you can apply it to bigger decisions, like when to commit to a project or reveal information. The essence of unpredictability is control. You decide what to reveal, when to act, and how to respond. Others must wait and watch, adjusting to you. When people cannot predict you, they cannot control you. They move carefully, giving you space and leverage. By staying unpredictable, you create a subtle barrier that protects your freedom and strengthens your position in every interaction. Toxic people thrive on reactions. They feed on conflict, drama, and emotional energy. When you show anger, excitement, or frustration, you give them exactly what they want. The gray rock method is a way to take that power away. The idea is simple. You become as dull and uninteresting as a gray rock. You don't engage, you don't react, and you don't give them anything to use against you. Over time, they grow bored and move on to someone else who gives them the response they crave. Imagine a coworker who loves to stir up trouble. They spread rumors, make sharp comments, and try to pull you into arguments. If you defend yourself or fight back, they win. Even negative attention fuels them. But if you respond with short, neutral statements like "I see" or "okay," their tactics lose power. They cannot play their game if you refuse to participate. They may try harder at first, but eventually they will stop when they see they can't get a reaction. This method works because toxic individuals are looking for control. They want to see you upset or off balance. When you stay calm and detached, they have nothing to work with. It's like trying to light a fire without oxygen. No matter how much fuel they bring, the flame dies out because you don't give it air. The key is consistency. If you stay neutral sometimes, but react at other times, they will keep testing you. Think of it like training an animal. If a behavior works occasionally, the animal keeps trying. If it never works, they stop. With toxic people, you must be steady and predictable in your lack of response. Consider a family member who criticizes you during gatherings. They make little digs, hoping you will defend yourself so they can escalate the fight. In the past, you might have snapped back or explained yourself. Now, you use the gray rock method. When they say, "You always make poor choices," you reply, When they push harder, you say, "Okay." No anger, no defense, just bland acknowledgement. Over time, they may stop targeting you because you no longer give them satisfaction. This approach does not mean agreeing with them or letting them win. It means refusing to play their game. You still hold your boundaries. If they cross a line, you can calmly leave the situation or enforce consequences later. The difference is that you do it without giving them emotional energy in the moment. In the workplace, this can be especially powerful. Suppose a coworker complains constantly and tries to drag you into their negativity. If you nod and say, "That's one way to see it," instead of debating, you protect yourself. They may eventually turn their focus to someone who argues back. By staying uninteresting, you avoid becoming a target. Tone of voice matters. Your words should be flat and calm. Even a hint of sarcasm or irritation shows emotion, which gives them a foothold. Practice speaking in a steady, neutral way. Keep your body language relaxed. Crossed arms, eye rolls, or deep sighs reveal feelings, so avoid them. Think of yourself as a professional actor playing the role of a blank slate. The gray rock method is not about being cold or cruel. It is about protecting your energy. Toxic individuals are like emotional vampires. They drain you by pulling you into endless cycles of drama. By staying boring, you cut off their supply. This frees you to focus on people and situations that matter. There is often an initial backlash. When a toxic person realizes their usual tactics no longer work, they may escalate. They might try louder insults, guilt trips, or even threats to get a rise out of you. This is called an extinction burst. It is a sign that the method is working. Stay steady. If you react during this phase, you undo your progress. Once they see that even their most extreme efforts fail, they will stop wasting energy on you. Imagine a neighbor who thrives on conflict. They complain about your lawn, your guests, your parking. In the past, you argued, trying to reason with them. Now, when they confront you, you simply say, "Okay," and go back inside. They yell louder, but you don't respond. After a few weeks, they give up and direct their complaints elsewhere. You didn't win by proving them wrong. You won by removing yourself from the game entirely. Boundaries are still important. The gray rock method works best when combined with clear limits. If a toxic person crosses a serious line, like threatening you or violating your safety, you take action. That might mean ending the relationship, reporting their behavior, or seeking help. The key is to handle it calmly, without giving them the emotional reaction they seek. This method also protects your mental health. Constant exposure to toxic behavior wears you down. When you refuse to engage, you create a buffer between their chaos and your peace. It's like building a wall around your emotional space. They can bang on the wall all they want, but you stay safe inside. In personal relationships, using this approach can be challenging. You may care about the person or feel guilty for not engaging. Remember that detachment is not cruelty. By refusing to feed their toxic patterns, you are actually encouraging healthier behavior. If they ever choose to change, it will be because the old tactics no longer work. For example, a partner who uses emotional manipulation might try to provoke jealousy. In the past, you reacted with anger or hurt. Now, you respond with calm indifference. They may escalate at first, but eventually they see that manipulation no longer gets results. This forces them to either change their approach or move on. The method is also useful with strangers or casual contacts. If someone online tries to bait you with insults, do not reply with anger or defense. Respond with a neutral, non-committal word like "noted" or "don't respond at all." Without your attention, they lose interest. Sometimes, the best response is silence. Words, even neutral ones, can still be fuel. If possible, walk away completely. If you must stay in contact, such as with a coworker or family member, keep interactions brief and factual. Share only necessary information. Avoid personal details or opinions they could twist against you. Consider a team meeting where a toxic coworker tries to start drama. Instead of arguing, you stick to facts. They say, "You always mess up the reports." You respond, "The report was submitted on Tuesday." No defense, no emotion, just information. Over time, they realize they cannot hook you. The gray rock method takes practice. At first, you may feel the urge to defend yourself or prove your point. Remind yourself that every reaction is a gift to the toxic person. By staying neutral, you take that gift away. It may feel strange to be so calm while someone else is angry or dramatic, but that calmness is your strength. Eventually, the toxic person may leave you alone entirely. Even if they don't, their power over you will fade. They cannot manipulate what they cannot move. By becoming uninteresting and unresponsive, you starve their drama and protect your peace. In a world full of noise, you become the steady, silent rock that cannot be shaken. People tend to follow the crowd, especially when they are unsure what to do. This is the core of social proof. When people see that others have already chosen a path, they feel safer taking the same route. It is a survival instinct, rooted in our history. In ancient times, sticking with the group increased chances of survival. Today, the stakes are different, but the behavior remains the same. By showing, even subtly, that others already support you or agree with your position, you make it easier for someone to side with you without feeling like they are taking a risk. Imagine walking down a street and seeing two restaurants. One is packed with people, the other is empty. Most people will choose the crowded restaurant, even without knowing the quality of the food. They assume the busy place must be better. That assumption is social proof at work. The same dynamic plays out in conversations, decisions, and relationships. Consider a workplace scenario. You want to introduce a new idea to your team, but you know some members are cautious about change. If you bring the idea forward alone, they may resist. If you casually mention that a respected colleague has already shown interest, their perspective shifts. Saying, "I spoke with Sarah and she thinks this approach could improve efficiency," plants a seed. Sarah's reputation acts as social proof, making others more comfortable supporting the idea. This works because people often look for shortcuts when making decisions. Instead of analyzing every detail, they rely on the behavior of others as a guide. If someone they respect or trust has already chosen a direction, they feel safer following. You can use this tendency to your advantage without being manipulative by simply highlighting real examples of support. Subtlety is important. If you announce, "Everyone agrees with me," it sounds like pressure or exaggeration. People may push back just to assert their independence. A better approach is to weave examples naturally into conversation. Instead of making bold claims, drop small factual statements. For instance, when I discussed this with a few team members last week, they seemed to like the idea. This simple remark signals that others are already on board without making it seem forced. Social proof also works through visible actions. If others see people engaging with you, they are more likely to engage as well. Think of a street performer. The first few onlookers gather slowly. Once there is a small crowd, more and more people stop to watch. In meetings, the same principle applies. If you can get one or two people to show visible interest, such as nodding or asking questions, others will follow. You don't need everyone to agree at first. You just need a spark that others can see. Online, this effect is magnified. Reviews, ratings, and likes are all forms of social proof. A product with thousands of positive reviews feels safer to buy than one with none, even if you know nothing about it. In personal interactions, you can create a similar effect by mentioning past successes. If you are pitching an idea, you might say, "We tested this approach with a small group last quarter, and it improved results by 15%. This gives tangible evidence that others have already acted and seen value. Social proof is especially powerful when the people involved are similar to your audience. A teacher will care more about the opinions of other teachers than about random statistics. A manager will value the input of other managers more than that of entry-level employees. When you choose examples to share, select ones that your audience can relate to. This makes the proof feel relevant rather than abstract. Consider a negotiation with a client. If you want them to sign a deal, you could say, "Other companies in your industry have already adopted this service." This creates comfort by showing that their peers are doing the same thing. If you name one specific company they respect, the effect grows stronger. The client sees that they are not taking a risky leap. They are following a path that others have already tested. In group settings, early supporters are critical. If you know a meeting will involve resistance, speak privately with one or two key people beforehand. Share your idea, answer questions, and gain their agreement. During the meeting, they will naturally show support, creating visible social proof. Others in the group, seeing respected peers engaged, will feel safer joining in. This turns a potentially hostile room into a cooperative one without direct confrontation. This tactic also applies to leadership. If you lead a team, you can model the behavior you want to see. When people observe you taking an action, they are more likely to follow. For example, if you want the team to adopt a new reporting method, start using it yourself. As they see you committed to it, they will feel comfortable doing the same. Your actions become living social proof. Even in personal relationships, this principle matters. Suppose you want a friend to try a new activity, like hiking. If you simply say, "Let's go hiking," they may hesitate. If you mention that a few other friends tried it and loved it, their hesitation fades. The knowledge that others enjoyed the experience makes it feel safer and more appealing. Social proof can also help in conflict. If you are mediating a dispute, showing that others have resolved similar issues successfully builds confidence. You might say, "I've seen teams handle the same challenge and come out stronger." This reassures everyone that a positive outcome is possible, reducing fear and tension. The power of social proof is tied to scarcity. When people believe that others already see value in something, they fear missing out. This fear drives them to act quickly. For example, saying, "We only have a few spots left because several teams have already signed up," creates urgency. The statement works because it combines proof with limited availability. There are limits to this approach. If your examples feel exaggerated or false, people will lose trust. They must believe the proof is real. That is why authenticity is critical. Always base your statements on actual events, data, or people. A single honest example is far more persuasive than a dramatic claim with no evidence. Body language can also serve as social proof. If you speak confidently and appear calm, others read your behavior as a signal of safety. Humans unconsciously mirror those around them. When you project certainty, you become a subtle form of proof yourself. People think if they are confident, maybe this path is safe. Consider a team meeting where an idea is presented. If you sit with open posture, nod thoughtfully, and engage, others will notice. Without saying a word, you create a ripple effect. They begin to match your behavior, which creates visible support for the idea. In sales, marketing, and leadership, entire strategies are built around this principle. Testimonials, case studies, and endorsements are all forms of social proof. But you don't need elaborate tools to use it in everyday interactions. A simple mention of who else supports your position can be enough to shift the balance. The key is subtlety. People resist overt pressure, but respond naturally to gentle signals. When they believe they are making their own decision, guided only by what others have done, they feel in control. By carefully showing that others are already on board, you remove fear and create momentum. Over time, this quiet influence can turn hesitation into agreement and conflict into cooperation. Your breath is one of the simplest tools you have to control your body and mind. Most people take it for granted. They breathe quickly and shallowly without realizing how it affects their mood, thoughts, and even how others see them. When you learn to control your breathing, you gain the ability to stay calm under pressure and project confidence in any situation. Slow, steady breathing signals safety to your nervous system. It lowers your heart rate, relaxes your muscles, and clears your mind. It also sends a powerful message to those around you. People read your breathing through subtle cues like voice tone, posture, and facial expression. When you breathe deeply and evenly, you appear calm, stable, and in control. Think about a stressful moment, like speaking in front of a group. Many people breathe fast and high in their chest when they feel nervous. This shallow breathing fuels anxiety. The heart races, the voice trembles, and the body shakes. Others can see and hear this, which only increases the pressure. Now, imagine someone standing on the same stage, taking slow, deep breaths. Their voice is steady. Their shoulders are relaxed. The audience senses confidence. The difference is not in natural talent, but in how each person manages their breath. Breathing affects how you think. When your breathing is fast and erratic, your brain shifts into fight or flight mode. Logic fades and emotions take over. This is why people say things they regret in heated arguments. Their body is primed for survival, not reason. Slow, controlled breathing reverses this process. It tells your brain that you are safe. Blood flow returns to the parts of the brain responsible for decision-making. Your thoughts become clear, and you can respond instead of react. Consider a negotiation where stakes are high. One person sits stiffly, breathing fast. Their face is tense, and their voice shakes. The other person notices this and pushes harder, sensing weakness. Across the table, someone else takes calm, steady breaths. They pause before speaking, and their voice is firm. This person appears unshaken even if they feel nervous inside. Their breathing creates an image of control that influences how others treat them. There is a practical way to use breathing in tense situations. Before a difficult conversation or meeting, take a few minutes alone. Sit or stand tall. Inhale slowly through your nose for a count of 4. Hold the breath for a count of 4. Then exhale through your mouth for a count of 6. This slows your heart rate and clears your mind. Even 2 or 3 rounds of this can shift your state dramatically. When you enter the room, you carry that calmness with you. Breathing can also help during conflict. Suppose someone insults you in public. The instinct is to snap back immediately. But if you pause and take one deep breath before responding, you create space. That breath keeps you from saying something you will regret. It also shows others that you are in control of yourself. People notice when someone pauses instead of reacting. It signals strength and maturity. In high-stress professions, controlled breathing is essential. Soldiers, pilots, and surgeons all train to manage their breath under pressure. A surgeon who panics in the middle of an operation can make deadly mistakes. By focusing on slow, steady breaths, they keep their hands steady and their mind sharp. The same principle applies to everyday life. While your challenges may not be life or death, the ability to stay calm under stress gives you an advantage in work, relationships, and decision-making. Breathing also affects how others perceive you in subtle ways. When you speak, your breath supports your voice. Shallow breathing produces a weak, shaky sound. Deep breathing from the diaphragm creates a strong, steady voice. People respond to vocal tone even more than to words. A calm voice builds trust and authority. For example, in a job interview, 2 candidates may have identical skills. The one who breathes deeply and speaks with a measured tone will appear more confident and capable. Body language connects to breathing as well. When you are anxious, your chest rises and falls rapidly, and your shoulders tense. Slow breathing relaxes these muscles, creating a natural posture of confidence. Others read this without realizing it. They sense that you are composed and reliable. This is why leaders who control their breathing seem unshakable even in crisis. Their calm presence spreads to those around them. You can also use breathing to manage energy levels. Shallow breathing drains you, leaving you tired and scattered. Deep, rhythmic breathing increases oxygen flow, giving you focus and endurance. Athletes use this to improve performance. Before a big game, they breathe deeply to calm nerves and sharpen reflexes. In daily life, you can do the same before important tasks like presentations, interviews, or negotiations. Consider a situation where you are being interrogated or challenged. The other person is trying to intimidate you. If your breathing becomes shallow and erratic, they will sense your fear. They will push harder, knowing they have the upper hand. If you keep your breath slow and controlled, you remain unreadable. This unsettles them. They cannot tell what you are thinking or feeling. This is why poker players train to breathe evenly. Their neutral breathing hides their excitement or disappointment, giving them an edge. Breathing also ties to emotional regulation. Emotions are physical as much as mental. When you are angry, your body heats up, your muscles tighten, and your breath quickens. By deliberately slowing your breathing, you send a signal to your body that it is safe to relax. This helps the emotion pass without taking over. For example, during a heated argument, you might silently focus on breathing deeply. While the other person escalates, you stay steady. This gives you control over the situation and over yourself. Even in everyday conversations, controlled breathing makes a difference. Imagine 2 coworkers discussing a problem. One interrupts constantly, breathing fast and shallow. The other listens calmly, taking slow breaths. When they speak, their words are measured and thoughtful. The second coworker appears wiser and more reliable, not because of what they say, but because of how they carry themselves. There are simple ways to build the habit of deep breathing. Throughout the day, pause for a moment and notice your breath. If it is fast or shallow, slow it down. Inhale through your nose, feeling your stomach expand. Then exhale slowly through your mouth. Doing this regularly trains your body to stay calm even when stress rises. Over time, it becomes automatic. Controlled breathing is especially useful when you are under observation. People watch leaders, speakers, and negotiators closely. If you seem nervous, they feel nervous too. If you seem calm, they feel reassured. Your breathing sets the tone for the group. This is why a calm leader can steady a team during crisis. Even without saying much, their steady presence gives others confidence. There is also a strategic use for pauses created by breathing. In conversation, a pause before answering makes you seem thoughtful and deliberate. It prevents you from blurting out something impulsive. It also creates a subtle sense of authority. People lean in when there is silence. They give more weight to your words when they come slowly and calmly. Breathing may seem too simple to matter, but its effects are profound. It influences your body, your mind, and how others respond to you. In stressful situations, your breath is the one thing you can control completely. By keeping it slow and deep, you remain steady even when chaos surrounds you. This steadiness projects outward. Others see you as confident and composed, even if inside you are working hard to stay that way. When you master your breath, you master the foundation of presence, power, and calm control. The Ben Franklin effect is a simple but powerful psychological principle. It works like this. When someone does you a favor, even a small one, their mind looks for a reason why they helped you. Instead of believing they acted for no reason, they convince themselves that they must like you. People want to see their actions as consistent with their feelings. If they help you, they assume they care about you. This effect can turn a neutral relationship into a positive one and even soften hostility over time. The idea comes from a story about Benjamin Franklin. He wanted to win over a rival who had spoken against him in public. Instead of confronting the man or trying to bribe him with flattery, Franklin asked to borrow a rare book from the man's collection. The man agreed, lending the book without hesitation. Franklin returned it a week later with a warm thank you note. From that point on, the man treated him with respect and even friendship. By asking for a small favor, Franklin turned an enemy into an ally. This works because of a natural human tendency called cognitive dissonance. When actions and beliefs don't match, the mind feels uncomfortable. If someone helps you but doesn't like you, their brain wants to resolve that conflict. The easiest solution is to change their belief. They start to think, if I helped this person, maybe they're not so bad. Maybe I actually like them. The more effort they invest, the stronger this shift becomes. You can use this principle in everyday life. Suppose you start a new job and want to build rapport with a colleague who seems distant. Instead of trying to impress them or win them over with praise, ask for their advice on a small work issue. You might say, "You've been here longer than I have. Would you mind showing me how you handle this task?" Most people like feeling knowledgeable and helpful. When they take the time to assist you, they feel more connected to you afterward. The favor creates a bond that words alone cannot. The key is to start small. If you ask for something too big right away, the person may feel burdened or suspicious. A small favor feels natural and easy to grant. Once they've helped you once, you can gradually build the relationship. Over time, they may even offer help without being asked. This is not manipulation in a negative sense. It works because it taps into a basic truth. People like to feel useful and appreciated. Consider a neighbor who keeps to themselves. You want to create a friendly relationship, but they seem guarded. Instead of bringing them a gift or trying to start a deep conversation, you ask to borrow a tool, a hammer, a ladder, or a cup of sugar. When they lend it, you thank them sincerely and return it promptly. The next time you see them, they are more open. That small act of helping you broke down the first barrier. The Ben Franklin effect also works in leadership. A manager who always gives to their team without ever asking for anything may seem distant. When the manager occasionally asks for input or assistance, the team feels valued. For example, a manager might say, "Could you review this proposal and tell me what you think?" The team member feels trusted and important, which strengthens their loyalty. This principle can even improve tense relationships. Suppose you have a coworker who is openly critical of you. If you fight back, the hostility grows. If you instead ask them for a simple favor, like forwarding a file or explaining a process, you create a moment of cooperation. They may still dislike you at first, but their mind will begin to shift. The more times they help you, the harder it becomes for them to maintain their negative view. In negotiation, the Ben Franklin effect can soften resistance. If you ask for a small concession early, such as an extra day to review a document, the other party invests a little effort. Later, when you make a larger request, they are more likely to agree because they already see themselves as cooperative. The initial favor sets a tone of collaboration. This effect also works in personal relationships. A friend who helps you move furniture feels closer to you afterward. A partner who takes care of a small task for you feels more invested in the relationship. When people give their time and energy, they naturally care more about the outcome. The key is to appreciate their help genuinely. A simple, sincere thank you reinforces the connection. Timing matters. The first favor should come early in the relationship, when opinions are still forming. Once someone has labeled you as an enemy or a threat, it is harder to change their mind. Franklin's rival did not hate him deeply yet, so the book request worked. If the hostility had been more intense, a different approach might have been needed. It's also important to return favors eventually. If you keep taking without giving back, people will feel used. The relationship must have balance. You can start by asking, but later you should look for ways to help them in return. This turns a one-sided interaction into a true bond. Subtlety is crucial. If someone senses that you are using them, the effect collapses. The favor must feel natural and unforced. That's why small requests work best. Asking a colleague to share a resource or explain a process feels normal. Asking them to cover all your work while you go on vacation would feel manipulative. Consider how this principle plays out in politics. A candidate who directly asks for votes may face resistance. If they instead ask supporters to do small things, like sharing a post or attending a local event, those supporters feel more connected. When they invest even a small amount of effort, they are more likely to vote and encourage others to do the same. Their action reinforces their belief that they are part of the cause. Even in daily conversations, you can apply this effect. If you meet someone new, you might ask for a minor recommendation, like a good book to read or a local restaurant to try. When they share their suggestion, they feel helpful. The next time you talk, there is already a small bond between you. That simple exchange makes the interaction smoother and friendlier. The Ben Franklin effect reveals something fundamental about human nature. People do not just act based on how they feel. Their actions shape their feelings. By asking for small favors, you allow others to create their own reasons to like you, instead of trying to convince them with words. You let their behavior guide their perception. Over time, those small acts of help build a foundation of trust and connection. Think of relationships as a series of shared investments. Each favor is like a small deposit in a joint account. The more deposits made, the more value the relationship holds. When someone has invested effort into you, they naturally want to protect that investment. They will defend you, support you, and see you in a positive light because they have already given a part of themselves to the relationship. By starting with one small request, you set this process in motion. Whether with a neighbor, a coworker, or even a rival, a single favor can begin to shift how someone sees you. It turns distance into connection, suspicion into trust, and indifference into loyalty, all through the simple act of asking for help. Arguments rarely solve anything. When two people clash, the focus shifts from solving the problem to winning the fight. Pride and ego take over. Logic disappears. Even if you make the stronger points, the other person often leaves feeling attacked. They may dig in deeper, resist you later, or even work against you in silence. Avoiding arguments is not weakness, it is strategy. By staying calm and redirecting the conversation, you keep control and protect relationships while still moving toward your goals. Imagine a meeting where a colleague loudly criticizes your idea. The natural impulse is to defend yourself point by point. You raise your voice, they raise theirs, and soon the whole room is tense. Even if you win, you lose. Others see conflict instead of progress. A better response is calm curiosity. You take a breath and say, "That's an interesting perspective. Can you walk me through how you see it working?" This changes the energy immediately. The other person feels heard, and you shift the focus from combat to discussion. Instead of clashing, you gather information and steer the exchange toward a solution. People often argue because they want to be understood. If you interrupt or push back too soon, they feel unheard and fight harder. By letting them speak fully, you reduce their need to keep pressing their point. Once they feel acknowledged, they become more open to hearing your side. This does not mean agreeing with them. It means showing respect while maintaining control of yourself. Consider a family disagreement. A relative makes a harsh comment about your life choices. You could argue back, listing reasons why they are wrong. This would likely lead to shouting, hurt feelings, and lasting resentment. If instead you stay calm and say, "I can see this matters to you. Tell me more about why you feel that way," you diffuse the tension. They may still disagree, but their anger fades because you didn't feed it. After they speak, you can calmly share your perspective without creating a battle. Redirecting is a powerful tool. When a conversation turns heated, change the focus without being obvious. Suppose a coworker complains about a decision you made. Instead of defending yourself, you ask, "What outcome are you hoping for?" This shifts their mind from blame to problem solving. You both move forward instead of getting stuck in conflict. Sometimes silence is the best response. If someone tries to provoke you, walking away or pausing can stop the escalation before it begins. Not every comment deserves a reply. Silence shows strength and composure. It also frustrates people who thrive on drama because they can't get the reaction they want. In negotiations, arguments are especially costly. If you fight over every detail, the deal stalls. Emotions rise and trust breaks down. A skilled negotiator stays calm, listens carefully, and asks questions. If the other party becomes aggressive, you remain steady. This contrast often unsettles them. They begin to match your calmness because anger burns energy quickly. You control the tone without saying much at all. There is a difference between standing firm and arguing. Standing firm means holding your position calmly and clearly. Arguing means pushing emotionally, trying to force the other person to submit. One builds respect, the other breeds resentment. For example, if a client demands an unrealistic timeline, you can say, "Given the scope of work, the earliest delivery date we can guarantee is the 15th. This is clear and confident. If you start shouting about how unreasonable they are, you lose credibility and control. Arguments often spiral because people focus on being right instead of being effective. Winning an argument might satisfy your ego in the moment, but it often damages the relationship long term. If you need ongoing cooperation from the other person, damaging trust is far more costly than proving a point. Think of a manager and employee. If the manager humiliates the employee during a public argument, the employee may comply outwardly, but secretly disengage or even sabotage future work. Avoiding the argument preserves dignity on both sides. Calmness has a physical effect on others. When you breathe slowly and keep your tone steady, it signals safety. The other person's nervous system responds by relaxing, even if they don't realize it. This makes it easier to guide the conversation. If you match their anger with your own, both of you escalate. The louder they get, the quieter you should become. The faster they talk, the slower you should speak. This creates a rhythm that pulls them toward your state instead of theirs. Sometimes redirecting means finding common ground. Even if you disagree on 90% of an issue, focus on the 10% you share. For example, if a team member wants a different approach, you might say, "We both want the project to succeed. Let's figure out the best way to make that happen." By emphasizing shared goals, you remind them that you are partners, not enemies. This lowers defenses and makes cooperation easier. It can help to visualize arguments as quicksand. The more you struggle, the deeper you sink. The only way out is to stay still, stay calm, and move carefully. When someone tries to pull you into conflict, imagine their words as quicksand. If you stay still and deliberate, you stay above it. If you thrash emotionally, you get trapped. Avoiding arguments does not mean giving up or letting others walk over you. It means choosing a smarter path. Instead of fighting over who is right, focus on what will solve the problem. Suppose two departments fight over budget resources. Each side argues passionately, and progress stalls. A leader steps in and says, "Let's map out our priorities together and see where they overlap." This shifts the dynamic from rivalry to collaboration. No one loses, but the issue still moves forward. Even in personal conflicts, redirection can be subtle. Imagine your partner criticizes you for forgetting an errand. Instead of arguing about who's right, you say, "I understand it was frustrating. How can we make sure it doesn't happen again?" This turns the focus to solutions instead of blame. The energy moves forward instead of backward. People often fear losing control if they don't argue back. In reality, arguing gives control away. When you argue, you let the other person set the terms of the interaction. You are reacting to them instead of leading. When you stay calm and redirect, you remain in charge. You choose the tone, pace, and direction of the conversation. Over time, others learn that you don't respond to provocation. They stop trying to bait you because it never works. This builds a reputation for stability. People begin to see you as someone they can trust to stay steady, even under pressure. That trust becomes influence. Avoiding arguments also protects your mental energy. Constant fighting drains focus and creates stress. When you choose not to engage, you conserve strength for decisions that matter. Think of your attention as a limited resource. Every argument you skip gives you more energy to spend on strategic action later. Consider how this plays out in leadership. A leader who argues with everyone is seen as volatile and reactive. A leader who listens, redirects, and stays calm is seen as wise and powerful. The difference is not in intelligence, but in emotional control. The calm leader wins loyalty and respect because they don't waste energy on pointless battles. When you avoid arguing, you send a clear message. You are focused on outcomes, not ego. You don't need to crush the other person to prove your strength. Your calmness speaks louder than any words. By refusing to fight, you create space for solutions, influence others quietly, and maintain control no matter how heated the situation becomes.